compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, DL 1975-230, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. I think it's just great that we are back in a public meeting since the first time went since March.
2019. 2020.
Right?
2019.
Exactly. So, welcome back, everyone. Well, the first thing I want to do is just acknowledge that Annie is sitting in for Omar, who happens to be on vacation this evening. So Annie is our clerk this evening. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Annie. And I want to introduce to everyone, Alicia Dawkins is here. You've all met Alicia. She started here with us now. She's our new HR director. So welcome aboard. Thank you for being here and joining us.
Thank you, God.
Any council members have any questions for her, or anything you want to say, Alicia? No?
I want to go one meeting before we...
No. I told you it could be a rough crowd sometimes. All right. Okay. We're going to start, because our borough attorney is a little delayed, we're going to start first with the administrator report and then go back to be considered, because there's virtually no topics in the administrative report that requires the attorney, and to be considered will require our attorney. So, Jimmy, why don't you start? If everyone's okay with that, we'll start with that. Jimmy?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Under personnel, as you just mentioned, Ms. Dawkins, a hire date, her first start date. Also, on July 5th, Mary McDonald began her appointment as the administrative assistant in fire services in the fire department. And then also on July 15th, Janine Fuentes began her employment with the borough as receptionist and administrative assistant with the borough clerk's office. The interior road monument, we held for the monument lighting improvements project. We held the opening on July 9th at 11 a.m. No bids were received, and it is recommended by the borough engineer and myself that the mayor and council authorize the rebidding of this project at tonight's meeting, so that's on for consideration tonight.
Is there any reason why, are we changing the bid and figuring it in?
We're not changing the bid, we're just re-advertising and doing the same. From our understanding, it's just timing. It's a historical project, so there's a lot of companies, a lot of firms are worried about the liability of the historical project, being the monument that it is. And unfortunately, there was 4 vendors who picked up the bid specs, and unfortunately none had submitted. So I would suggest maybe we also, if you want to advertise also in the Star Ledger, as well as our regular paper, just do like a bigger range. So I don't think we'll change the specs themselves, only because we can consider either drastically changing the bids. So then at this point, if we again receive no bids, after the second time we're able to directly negotiate with any firm. But the rules and regulations are guidance from the attorneys, but this allows us to still be, as long as we don't change specifications drastically, we should be fine to actually approve the course of action we should pursue.
And does it put at risk any of the timing?
A little bit. I believe Annie might be able to speak to, we would have to request from the county extension of the grant. We have currently, the closeout of the project is begun at completion of this year, December 31st of this year, so we might be able to, we probably have to request extension, but as long as we see that we're trying, there's these things we can't help, so they'll probably be able to grant that.
Have we reached out to the state, we reached out to them to find out who we can read the
No, but we can contact them and inform vendors. We also ask the lighting company that made the specifications to inform them, or have them inform some of the people that they've worked with previously on projects that were vendors. So we have casted a piece in that I think we'll go through advertising as well as the Star Ledger. I think we get a bigger cast.
Jeff, you have a question, and then Lauren. Oh, Lauren, please, then Jeff.
Well, can I actually ask our engineer if you would mind? And thank you for being here tonight. Are you aware of any companies that do this type of work? And do you know maybe why they didn't bid on this type of project? Are we writing it in a certain way that's not attracting the right kind of companies?
I don't think so. You know, again, post-COVID, one of three things happened. Firms shut down and they cease to exist. Firms are over busy, or firms are so stressed financially they can't take on a job and they have to buy expensive lighting. So these guys have to confront the cost of the lighting. So the four guys that picked up to do the job, when we called them, they're all too busy, they can't meet the time schedule, and they're like, it's not a job we want to do. So, you know, we told them to rebid it again. Focus Lighting is who we're counting on to get the vendors because they're the expert in it. So we're pressing them to try to get some more vendors, but you did get 4 pickups, you just don't want to do the job. They're too busy.
Can we get an extension?
So I think if you bid it again, you get no bidders. That allows you to negotiate, so then you can go to these vendors and negotiate things like time and money. So that would allow you to get an extension from the historic association.
Jeff, please.
Well, also some of Bob Carpenter's work is going to be delayed due to this, right?
He's done all the work he can do until the lighting project commences. So he's an integral part of it because he's got to drill all the holes in stone to the new lights. So he has to work with your lighting vendor where he has time.
Right, and a certain amount of his work, once the weather turns colder, he can't do because there's caulking in those holes and things that won't work, so. We may need to reach out to the county for a second extension, because we've already had one.
Right, so this next bid is only for 10 days. So literally by the first week of August, you have no bidders you can negotiate directly right away. You know, no bidders you can negotiate.
So who actually, just to follow up with Jeff and Lauren said, who reaches out to ask for an extension? Is that something you do? Should Jimmy do that?
I think Jimmy would do it in conjunction with Kelsey Howard in their office.
Right, so let's follow that. Let's follow that dual track. While you're doing the bidding, reach out to the county, 4 firms, they don't want to do it, that sort of thing, okay? Because who knows, they might, you know, COVID-related issues, and they might give us an extension of a few months. Okay?
No problem.
All right, keep going.
Yep, 2021 Riverside Co-op, paving. And just to make sure the village record show we need to spoke. 2021 Riverside Co-op, paving, $90 million of the street on July 8th. Paving is at this point completed. They will be striping, that should be done relatively soon, weather dependent. Ask for a list of roads that were been paved over the past.
Just another question, I apologize. I remember the last, and I know that I spoke to you beforehand. I know we got an original list of the roads. The only one off the top of my head is like 40 or something. I just know that, what happened with, is there a second set of roads that are going to be done this year, or is this just for the Riverside Co-op? Is there additional, or are these the roads this year that are going to be?
So Andy's going to actually speak to that a little bit tonight. There were roads that were done that were micro-paved. So those were different than other set of roads. So these were the roads that are fully milled and paved. But Andy's going to speak tonight about some of the options we may have within the Riverside Co-op this year, being that the contractor recommendations came back favorably. So we're going to speak about that later on tonight.
Okay, so there's this is the list now, there's a possibility for more, but this is the
list that was completed, that was approved and completed.
Okay.
But there's extra money, so there's going to be a discussion about additional roads that Andy's going to get into the details.
So, this is the list we passed in 2020, right? Is that right?
No, this is the 2021 list. So we did what was approved.
Right.
So just a further clarification, these were the roads that were approved based on the estimate. So once we received the bids, we won't know the full price until the bids are received. We have to stay within the estimate of our budget confines. And since they came back favorably, we have, we'll be able to speak about that tonight to see our options. Going on to the 2020 capital road project. The Bergen County scheduled to pave East Clinton Avenue this month in August. As I get updates, I'll provide them just so the public's aware, and just as we get the exact timing, it gets a little bit closer. For our website, excited to announce that the borough website live last week on July 13th, getting a lot of positive feedback, and we're always taking in comments, suggestions. One of the suggestions, and just want to bring up to the council just for some food for thought, is adding photos. I mean, there has to be a certain quality type of photo, but photos throughout the town, so I think it's good. We have a scroll, rolling photos of items in the town, monuments, so on and so forth, things you want to highlight, so something to keep in mind and you want to follow public.
So Jimmy, because we're in the summer and the town looks nice and green right now, if we wanted to get a professional photographer to go around, take pictures of our parks and playgrounds and monuments, is that a possibility here? How would that work?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a huge cost. I mean, we just have to figure an item, budget line item to charge, or if we want to make this a public, fun thing to do. I mean, it has to be certain photo quality, but might be able to have members of the public themselves just want to do it, give them the photo credits. So.
Yeah, I would say two things. One, so I love the idea, I definitely want to get some photos. Two is, I think that there are amazing photographers already in town that would do it for like, just our residents. And then the third thing is just to let you know, the downtown revitalization committee, the BFJ actually had proposed doing some sort of fun photo contest to get people engaged. So I absolutely agree with you. We should get some great photos. This is the best time to do it. I think we're going to get amazing photos without paying anybody.
So then, how do we, let the public know because I know Omar and I were working on this, because we had photos submitted last year, and they weren't the pixelation quality that we needed for the website. So how do we distribute that information to the public and say, hey, we need the following places, our fields, our monuments, et
So
cetera.
we have a meeting actually already scheduled for for Monday, August 2nd.
That's the downtown?
Downtown,
Yeah,
right?
and we could make that one of the things that they send out the note, which obviously Jimmy or Omar would send out, and so I could take that action.
I can find out the technical aspects of what pixel quality is on the board on the website.
It'd be nice to have some professional, everyone to choose from.
And maybe, Adam, when you get the downtown committee to take this on, you guys generate a list, so,
Yeah,
think of all the different pages on the website and what would be great.
absolutely. That's fair. Thank you.
And by the way, I know Jeff and I went through some incredible historical footprints. I'd love to get some of that. I'm not sure how we get that quality, but that would be great too. Some history. So maybe, Jimmy, if you can ask Civic Class how to get historical pictures up.
Scan, okay.
Yeah.
And, so I want to update the mayor and council on the Tenafly Railroad Station grant. In April 2020, the borough was awarded a open space matching grant for the county, amount of $70,000. So, matching grant was looking for $35,000, received $35,000 from the county. The grant was awarded for the repair and preservation to the Tenafly Railroad Station, from the roof, colas, stonework, door and window repair, and improvements to the electrical and signage to the building. The borough went out to RFQ for a historic preservation architect in September of 2020. Barton Ross was deemed a qualified architect for this project at $24,960. Barton Ross is preliminarily estimated the construction cost for this project to be in the range of $150,000. So I just want to put you notes on this. The RFQ was never awarded. This was, I think, just the timing of COVID and everything that happened. So the main important thing here is the estimated cost of the construction. So I just wanted to bring that to the council for further direction on.
So this is basically a $175,000 project for which the county is ponying up $70,000.
35, and we see 35 from the county. We're putting up 35,000 as a matching grant. So 35 from the borough, 35 from the county.
So the borough has to come up with $115,000. And is that $115,000 budgeted yet, or no?
No.
Okay, so is that something with the 2022 budget, or what do you,
Well,
go ahead, Jeff.
there was also the amount that was put in escrow from the tenant, which was going to be used for some of this.
Which is $50,000.
Right.
So,
That was also part of
given the fact that it's August 1st effectively, that gives us, if the council so chooses, there's money available to actually
So
Start.
we are,
Because isn't the county's portion, is not 35, the county's portion I thought was 70, matching 70 from us. So a total of 140 was my.
No, I believe it's 35 and 35.
I'd like to see the paperwork on
Okay,
things
let's
like
get that
this.
confirmed. Yeah, we
So,
better.
you know, it's hard not to see the paperwork.
Yeah.
Anyone have, this?
Well, that has to be confirmed, we have a difference of opinion on the 70 versus 140.
So Susan is saying
Does
it's
anyone out there have any
35.
other?
Susan has the answer, so.
It's 70,000, and then we're gonna get a match grant for the 35, that's the first part. I don't think the whole thing's budgeted for that though. And then the 150 would have to be an additional amount to put into the budget. And, and the police you're referring to really needs to be looked at to see what is applicable that we can use for direct costs for the construction. Because I think in the lease it says some verbiage about what you can use that money for.
Are we able at this stage, because we didn't award the RFQ, to edit it and reduce the amount of construction within this one grant? Because maybe that's something we consider, given that the matching is so low, and, you know, it will cost the borough significant money. I'd like to see it broken down.
I'm sure they can prioritize
Yeah.
the work.
I'd like to see, you know, what our options are maybe.
So what do you want to put the details together and we can talk about at the next meeting?
Sure.
Good. So let's distribute all that information to the council members. And then Susan, you can compare
this
those.
qualifies for open space, it's historic.
One last item there. At a previous meeting, actually internally, we brought up that there was capital funds remaining in the amount of $20,000 for water bottle filling stations. And the mayor and council discussed narrowing down the potential locations to have it installed. Mike Cassidy, DPW director, I went around the plumber just to get an idea of feasibility and locations that were narrowed down. So with the amount of, well, the $20,000 that we have already budgeted in the install costs, we would be able to do 2, maybe 3 water bottle stations. We have two parks, or 2 locations, one in Highland Park, would definitely require a stand station, and then Roosevelt Commons could be either a stand station or a wall mount station, and then Sunnyside and Union Field would have to be a wall mounted station. So we essentially we'd be able to do 2, maybe 3 locations to have the water bottle station installed. I could bring photos, but they're the typical ones you see. Just you use it as a water fountain and then pour fill your bottle, and then it's either freestanding or attached to the one of the buildings and pictures there.
So, Lauren, please.
When we had budgeted and we had gotten an initial estimate for both the station and the install, you know, we had planned to put 4 because that's how the cost worked out. What happened here is cost went up.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you're at installation costs as well. You're at installation costs is about at each location roughly between $3,000 and $4,500 in that range. And then the stations themselves come between $4,000 and $7,000. That's pretty much the low side, and just kind of the basic generic without certain aspects to the water station.
So, and you said Sunnyside, Roosevelt, Walnut?
So there's the five locations were Walnut, Highland, and Roosevelt.
Yeah.
So those 3 could do a stand station. Roosevelt is the only one that's flexible, so Roosevelt you could either have a stand station or a wall mount. And then Sunny and Uni, Municipal Field would have to be a wall mount.
Sunnyside and Muni Field would be the wall mount. So at Sunnyside, would it be against the little bathroom building there?
I believe so, yes.
And
There's something that says-
at Muni Field, what would it be against the little field house or the
Yeah.
main building?
Main
The
building.
main building?
Back in the teen center.
What do you have plumbing right there?
Yep,
Right next to what, the youth center?
yes.
So what would you put it on, the east wall there?
Where the fountain is now.
Next to the fountain?
Oh, okay.
There's a
So
fountain
we
back
were,
there.
the money's budget is in there, should we just move forward with this? Everybody's good? Okay.
Yeah, and you might
He
want
wants to know which 2.
Yeah.
He wants to-
2 or 3, so if you narrow down to 3,
The most active ones, Sunnyside, Muni, then down to Roosevelt.
I still think Walnut over Roosevelt only because there is absolutely no water source there, and we do play sports there.
Does anyone feel strongly one way or the other?
Which sports are summertime there?
Soccer and softball.
And they're starting Saturdays, rec stuff.
Uni,
And they do little kid lacrosse.
Walnut,
sometimes down there.
third one?
Yeah.
Okay,
They do
good.
a small.
All right, I just,
You might be able to do three, depending on the.
If you can get a third, what would you recommend?
sunny side, third.
Sunnyside? So we're gonna go in priorities, Muni, Walnut, and then Sunnyside, if we can get the cost in for the third. Everyone good with that? Okay? Good, there you go.
Thank you. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
We-
I'm sorry, can I say, as we go forward, can you get the costs while we're, to pick the next 2 or 3, can you just get a cost from them so we have a sense of what we would need to budget going forward?
Yeah, no problem. And then there's also, not to be more complicated, but there's color options.
Oh, that's not, you can use your judgment.
you.
Green, Glenn didn't see it, but
Yeah,
green.
you're the judge. When is Andy going to, talk with us during the public meeting?
To be considered.
To be considered? Okay, oh, great, all right. Okay, so that concludes your administrative
Yes,
report?
thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go back, to be considered, the first item on the agenda is the fair ballot project.
That one was mine.
So that one was yours, so go ahead, you have the floor, Lauren.
Yes, as most of you know at this point, New Jersey is the only state in the union in which our ballot system is set up in lines or designations of support. So if you are a Democratic or Republican primary, you are either endorsed by the party under the party line, or you're another Democrat looking like you're running against the party, when in fact you could be part of the same party. So in an analysis of all 50 states' ballots, this professor at Rutgers found that our ballot gives an advantage to the first party line of over 35% voting. So essentially, it is incredibly difficult for anyone to win, as they say, a primary or an election off the party line on the New Jersey ballot. So what we're looking at here is a resolution that is passed by some of the communities within New Jersey. I would like to present it to our borough to consider passing. I am 100% in support of passing this, as it says, this says that we hereby endorse the elimination of rows, lines, and columns due to bracketing so that all candidates will be selected fairly by the voters and not the party leads. So I would like you guys to consider this, and I'd like to put this up for a resolution.
Comments, questions from anyone? Yes, Jeff?
so, I'm not familiar with that part of the balloting. Is that a state determination, a county determination, or a party determination? Who actually puts together those ballots? Because counties can differ.
So the county puts together the ballot, but this is to eliminate across all of New Jersey the ballot system as is. And currently, right now, there is this party line system in almost, I think, in all counties.
No, I get that. Does the state constitution permit the state legislature to actually enter into that level because it is county by county, or is that
I
something, believe so,
I
or?
believe so, and again, I'd have to check with our assemblywoman, but I
Because
believe.
there's some things like the federal government leaves to the states, there's some things in New Jersey, the state government leaves to the county, but I thought this might be a county.
So the design, the individual county ballots, the design the counties do place, but you can have rules set, from what I understand, and again, in speaking with our current assemblywoman, you can have rules set by the state that govern all ballots. And so, please, there's information not from me, but from, this professor at Rutgers who has been studying this for a couple of years. This has been brought up in numerous places. There's a wonderful online lecture from this professor, Professor Rubin. If you need more information, And so essentially, this resolution is circulating to municipalities, and I'd like us to consider it.
So what does the council want to do? I mean, you want to put this on the agenda again for November after everyone's had a chance to read all this, or is there a
No interest here.
November?
It's hungry.
For August, I mean, there's a lot of issues with this. Obviously, people are going to have very different viewpoints because it's very much a political issue as much as it is a concept. Do you want to have time to think about it? What do you guys want to do, ladies and gentlemen?
Can I just add another point too?
Sure, go ahead.
In learning from this Professor Lubin and learning some of the analysis that's been done in the past 15 years in the New Jersey ballots, it's clear that, there are less minorities, there are less women represented, there are less winners that are not current incumbents. And so this essentially is trying to even the playing field for those in the public that would like to run for election. I'll just put that out there as well.
Okay, all right. If I'm not hearing any further discussion going on here, we're going to punt this to August. Let everyone has time to read it and think it through. Okay? All right, thank you. The next issue is, the next topic to be considered is the open space, and a couple of lines down there is community center. We should really, the open space, Jimmy, you put that on, correct? Right. And I asked for the community center, so I'll tag on at the end of the open space discussion for the sake of time. So go ahead with your open space.
Yeah, so we had discussions on open space and what to do with, maybe focusing on the property at the pool. So we provided at the last meeting, between meetings, maps of, your colliers and our engineer on the facility and, what you're able to do, what you may be able to do on the site. So we've asked the borough engineer to come out and help aid in this discussion, so to help us understand these maps and what's feasible on that location.
Lauren, sure, of course.
We don't have a map of the two properties next to it. Did we ask that question as well?
What two properties? Which one?
The parking lot and the existing pool club?
You can see that, you can see it on the map, the first sheet, the one first.
Not one. I know, but I don't see any, of the, if any, restrictions.
You can have the same, so it'll have like.
Hi, Eddie, thank you.
If you look at that map.
That's not one, right?
That one. So the area is kind of it's like a dotted area, like a dark line to dotted area. That dotted area is going to go right across the parking lot, right across and right down this side of the tracks, on the side of the tracks.
And Andy, in the polka dot area, what's that represent?
So the polka dot area is a flood hazard area. So pretty much every property on the west side of the railroad tracks, the entire length is encumbered by some environmental restriction. The area that says Tenafly Brook with like the dashes, that's floodway. You can't touch that at all. It's not touchable area. Flood hazard area, the dotted area you can touch. And throughout that entire area, you're going to have some form of wetland somewhere, whether it be the ditches that are between the properties or run right along the stream. You're going to have that fall inside those areas. And then the other maps, as you turn back, nothing to get into detail. When you turn back, you'll see some of the more detailed surveying and studying that was done. To kind of put your head in the right place for the pool property, we had DEP in sight, everything's at DEP. If it's disturbed now, if there's a there now, a pool there now, concrete there now, that area is disturbed. So you can do something there, if you come up with what you want to do there, and it will require a permit from the state of New Jersey. So no matter what you do, because it falls in flood hazard, it will require a permit from the state.
So even if we're doing something like what we considered non-invasive, like above ground only, not a structure, but for example, some of the things like raised flower beds or something like that, you're saying we just have to be prepared to wait some time because the DEP must weigh
Yeah, then the ultimate jurisdiction over the space of the DEP, things like a raised bed or fencing, sometimes they allow it, sometimes they don't. If you fall what they call a flood hazard area,
in? That this is,
right, that's an area where when the stream floods, it's going to have moving water. So anything you put up in that area could pose a threat and deflect water in other directions, then there are catch streams coming down the street. You happen to have a building in that area, as you look for it, the part of the building's not really, when you look at it, the building itself is out of that area. Part of the pools are out of the area, but everything else behind it is in the area. Most of the stuff you have in the area is at grade. Usually you start to get problems when you bring things up out of grade. Because now if this floor always got flooded with 2 feet of water and I added this table as a solid structure,
Yeah.
the water now has to go around the table.
sure,
So
sure.
that's not saying you couldn't get it permitted, the state has to know about it.
gonna
You have
take
to go to
time.
the state and get them to permit it.
So we have a dog park there now, but it didn't really raise to the level of talking anything, okay.
So what I would say is if you're gonna start ripping out concrete, ripping the pools out, ripping the building down, you can replace something there. You can build gardens there. There's things you can do that are totally permittable. You just will need a permit for it. You just can't do it.
And do the permits have to happen, or should they happen before we actually do any demolition? And not that we have plans to do any in other words, just for our thinking, so that we don't wind up making a mistake with anything.
Yeah, so from Andy's experience,
Yeah,
it's easier to go to DEP with existing structures,
Okay.
there'll be buildings and concrete ways, all that, and then go down there and say, we have this new project, we're gonna take all this concrete and pervious area out and put this in, and look much more favorably on. Once it's removed, they kind of go, hey, you removed it already, it's kind of
It's not
out there,
there.
it's not in the floodway anymore, it's not in the flood hazard anymore.
Right.
So I would tell you, to come up with your ideas, you come up with a concept. So if your concept is like raised gardens or some, version of taking the pool out, putting like a sitting area, whatever it may be, I would take that idea on paper, sketches, this would go with it, and go to DEP and go, hey, this is what we want to do, what permits do we need? And then they could say to you, raise beds, you name, letter from them, email, you're good. They might say you need a flood hazard permit, a wetlands permit, and this, that. But remember, on the pool property, we have in front of DEP for a long time now, the mapping showing the wetlands and flood hazard areas. So we're just waiting for confirmation back from them that it in fact is what it is. We're confident it will come back that way. It's just the DEP is so behind because they're working like 1/3 shifts. They're 8, 9 months to a year behind.
So what, all you're waiting for them on is just to confirm that this area is what you think. So we have.
You did not your plan.
So we had this plan in our last budget about, we budgeted filling in with gravel, right?
Yes.
So that's an allowable thing.
It's an existing water surface, yeah.
So would you say in your, I know which way I'm leaning toward, but your thoughts is, when it comes to things that rip things up versus not rip them up, ideas, which ones would you think are the safer bet with the proceeding of projects?
I think the state would look very favorable on ripping up impervious area, to put that in what we call pervious area.
Okay, ripping up
Right, they'll look
impervious.
very favorable on that.
Okay.
I just wouldn't do it
Okay,
until you have a plan.
Right.
We all go down there, get the DP approve it. Once you get your email or your letters in, you're approved, then do it.
okay, that's interesting.
So the dog, you go like the dog park,
Jeff and Benjamin.
previously Mayor Rusty invited DEP to that site. They went over this whole thing on the dog park. He's like, no, this is fine, you're inside your impervious area, don't worry about this, we don't care. It's not, you already disturbed this area 4 years ago.
Jeff, please.
Two things, Andy, and thank you for putting this together. I see there's a flood hazard area zone AE and another one X. Is there any appreciable difference that we need to know about between the two?
There is Zone X is really an unregulated zone under FEMA. Zone AE has restrictions on things you can raise up inside of it. It just basically says if you're in Zone AE, you have to go to the state to get permits what you're going to do. If you're in Zone X, you don't necessarily have to.
And the second question is the 300, foot riparian zone, does that change anything, or is that really just the same kind of an overlay?
It's the same thing. The regulations are slightly different. They're only new since like 2004-ish, around there. actually between 2004 and 2014, those regulations were perfected. The 300-foot riparian zone is always natural woods and never disturbed. Let's just say this property was undisturbed. You're doing nothing. There's nothing you build there, don't propose it, no matter what you're doing. Your property is completely disturbed inside that, when kind of walking off the street from the pool building, all the way back on those pools, so the riparian buffer won't restrict you within that area. But going outside that area, the grass areas, which are disturbed, is gonna start making it a lot more difficult when you start getting past that area. But you have layers of regulations that's the problem.
Fanu, please.
Hi, Andy. And thank you for coming. The question, you know, is the DEP only concerned about the floodwater aspect of this property, or?
So one group is the DEP flood hazard group is concerned about floodwaters, the wetlands group is concerned about plant life and vegetation. And when you go to a meeting, they're both going to come to the same meeting, and they both state their own concerns, they don't overlap.
Are there any concerns about biohazard, you know, potentially, any issues that might come from higher, chemicals that are gone?
You know, like contamination on top, whole different group of DEP. So there's the DEP is such a big agency. So this site has been affected on the tenant home site, and that whatever we do there. So let's say we all get on DEP and get flood hazard and wetlands in the same room. They say this, let's say it's community garden. Your community garden bridge is moved forward. That's good. So we get that approval. Now we got to go to the DEP as a jurisdiction over the potential contamination. Say we're going to do this. Is this okay? So that'll be the next level. You get to.
So we have to go through both hurdles.
Even though the other one's under the jurisdiction of somebody else, it's dependent on the site.
Right.
That group's separate, but before we do something, we know we've been notified of potential contamination under the property. We set the time for now. Even though the contamination's underground, not above.
From your experience, does that seem like something that we would be?
Probably not an issue. I mean, if you were doing something where you had new water, so let's say we took the pools out and we were going to put in deep foundations. We had to dig 10 feet down. If we get groundwater, we know, because we've been notified, the groundwater in that area is being contaminated. And it depends on going through a groundwater treatment. They pump chemicals in, and they pump back out, right? So we know, so we have to deal with that contamination.
Well, I mean,
We should talk about this in closed session.
It's called a reg, it's called a record, you can get it in the library.
So, Fanu, did you have a follow-up question?
I had a slightly different question. You mentioned that removing adding impervious would be the opposite idea of what they.
So you probably could not add any more impervious than you currently have. You have a lot.
No, that's
So your pool area, your tools, your sidewalks, your guns, a lot of impervious, but you probably couldn't, I doubt very much you can add anymore.
Okay, there's a lot there.
You can take it up and put back the same amount.
Wait, to clarify that point, so it's 50% impervious, that means we can shift around the 50%? Gotcha.
Yes.
It's not just a footprint.
I mean, they're gonna stay, if you follow the inside yellow line and the outside red line on that side, you're gonna be inside that area, that's where you currently are now. There's a little bit that pokes into that yellow, so you're gonna kind of take the outline you have there and just project it back to the road. You know, you're inside, again, you're inside the wetland area, flood hazard area, and it's riparian. So they're gonna look at it, they're not gonna be that generous, you're gonna look at it pretty hard. So they're gonna say, you had impervious here, you put it back. If you're trading off inside that zone, you're probably fine. So if I had a piece silo here, and I didn't have a piece here, if they're both in that big area, they would let me put it, they would let me do that. They're not gonna let you take it outside and go,
Correct.
put it over here, and say, no way, it was never there, it's grass.
Correct.
Go ahead, Lauren. No, go ahead, please.
The high school parking lot, like,
Yep.
how did that get permission to become impervious coverage?
So the high school parking lot has existed.
I would imagine,
Regulations of
I mean, I would imagine in 1960, someone just walked in with blacktop and blacktop.
The DEP wetlands and flood hazard regulations came in right around the mid-80s.
Right.
So they started talking about in 78, 79, by 88, they perfected it, by 90, you couldn't touch anything in New Jersey. That parking lot,
That's been there
it
since the
predates,
60s.
it predates.
That parking lot actually was for the swim clubs. It wasn't for the high school, because the high school wasn't there at that time.
So that's the early 60s.
Yeah, in the 60s is when that was put in for both swim clubs, when the second one was
It
built.
all predates the regulations.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you, so the high school parking lot, if you take up the asphalt, just hypothetical here, I'm just trying to understand the regulations here. If you take up the asphalt, is that area allowed to then become impervious coverage on that whole area?
So the parking lot on this map is impervious space that pre-existed in regulations. So you could build impervious, if you took it out to make some other form impervious, you could build it back, the whole property is all impervious. Julie's example is a good one. Let's say you wanted to put a structure up that was higher than what's currently there. You now fall into a different regulation, and flood hazards would go way in a second. The parking lot will go right across the top of it. Now I put a structure across it, it's going to, literally where water runs in the street, it will deflect it, and that deflection of water is very hazardous depending on which way it goes. So they don't always allow you to put a structure up, just say, you couldn't build a 10-story building, then cover the whole apartment, they're allowed. They're going to start to fall inside some regulations. Would they let you build the building? Potentially. You have a building on the other property that was added a flood hazard area, so if it wasn't, you could horse trade the building and maybe, it's a dynamic thing. I wouldn't count on, taking down that and build a building. Maybe if you had the other pool, you took the other pool down, that building on there is back now.
That building is what? What did you say, Andy?
The other pool has buildings and structures that are farther back.
Right,
in the flood
right.
hazard zone. And again, it's kind of about trading, right? You're inside a riparian zone, you're inside a flood hazard zone, you're inside a wetland zone. It's all about trading, but again, the trade decider is only one entity, the DEP. And it's really two groups at the same time have to agree with.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a lot of fun.
The existing pool club, the old pool club that's no longer, where the dog parks are, if we wanted to create that as a pool club, that's still possible?
The one where it's closed right now. Yeah, you could operate that just the way you have right now.
Is the pool there now?
Yes.
Just a little water and chlorine.
So you.
Go ahead, Dan.
No,
Then
that
Julie?
was- No, I'm good.
Julie?
So just going back to what you were saying, that the state looks favorably upon ripping up impervious and then putting down pervious. right?
They always,
That's their top line.
in a flood hazard area, a wetland area, if you're gonna remove impervious and put in pervious or vegetative type stuff, it's probably a priority.
What they
Long
like.
street ways of water.
Would you mind just giving some examples of what pervious would be, just for the public?
So impervious
Have
could
the
be
same
from
protections as that.
from what we call an armor construction perspective. Pervious could be the walkway, which is why is this alley, that is pervious asphalt that allows water to go through. That can pervious, it could be a stone walkway, it could be potentially cinder, depending on how you construct
Not for
it.
this.
Cinder walkway could be pervious, depending on how you constructed it. It could be just a grass field, it could be gardens, it could be it's like a kind of like a nature center, like a nature path, maybe reusing the current building you have.
I don't think we can touch that though. I think that's why that's the
Any type of
property
nature
line.
center or any
So
type
if
of
you had a
environmental
parking
center.
lot, it'd be the other pool. If you had one put together, probably.
You know, wood chip walking paths, DB provides one details a lot of times, so in nature trails and wood chips is very pervious. The problem you have here, it does fall in the flood hazard area, so we flood it's in Washington. Well, so the key issue would be is, if you wanted to create some kind of nature walking trail, you say, now listen, we can't really create a wood chip path, which is very desirable, because it'll wash away, so we want to use pervious asphalt, pervious concrete, which will provide the same benefits, so allowing water to go through it, and give you a much better than solid concrete. They're flexible because you have 100% pervious concrete there, and pools there, 100% pervious. So they don't provide any benefit to the environment at all.
Trees are.
Trees are great, they love
perfect.
trees, they love trees, all kinds of vegetation on trees, stream restoration that's not naturally enough for watering, for southern crops, they love that.
Wetlands is underground, flood is above ground, so whatever we do.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Andy? Then I'm going to talk about this community center topic. So just because we're talking about the same, you have another question?
Sorry.
Go ahead, then I'll go.
The DEP permitting process. So hypothetically, if we get plans, a landscape designer, architect, working with your company, whatever it is, and we go to them, who reviews it, what's the process, what's the timing, that kind of stuff.
So any project there is going to have kind of a long time frame right now until the government lists all the time frames. Because of COVID, you really have no time frame to review anything.
Right.
Saying that, normally we have a community that comes up with a concept, you work with either an architect and an engineer at the same time, you come up with your concepts without spending a lot of money. And then the first thing is go to DEP for a pre-app meeting. Everybody meets there, we sit down with all the various groups and they kind of give you direction. Then you come back and actually put your permit together. So that's an engineering perspective. That'll need at least conceptual, architectural plans for any type of building or structures. Then the whole permit, all the engineering plans is down there. It goes out where fees is required by the state. You get your approval, right? That rule used to be like 90 days. Now that approval can take 8 to 10 months or 16 or 18 months. Once that's done, then you can go out, do your final construction plan. So the time frame's a little long again now. I would assume by next year that we'll go back to the regular 90-day approval process. If you tie your wetlands to a flood hazard agreement, because they have to tie together, it's 90-day review. If it's just wetlands, there's no time frame.
And then,
That's the old rules, and there's those rules right now, that was waived because there's no time frame ready right now. But I assume by next year they'll do that.
The other question is, what restrictions are there to the railroad tracks?
I mean, railroad tracks anywhere in the United States are considered impacted fill.
What do you, can I just interrupt for a second? Like, what do you mean in terms of what?
Like, let's say we want landscaping or past the park, how close can you get to
okay.
the property? What restrictions are there in terms of height and,
Or with respect to like an active railway?
No, the one that we're sitting here now, CSX is,
Well, they consider it, even though it's not active, they consider it active. So you just have to stay out of their railroad. You can't go on their road.
Without their permission?
They don't care if you're outside the roadway, they can kill us.
Right.
We learned that in Piermont Road.
Yep.
Okay.
They didn't look at it, you can build right up there line, too.
But their property line also extends beyond the actual grade.
Oh, yeah, it's big.
Yes, it does.
40 feet.
10 feet.
6 feet, 10 barracks, it's like, it's very sawtooth kind of
Go up to their property.
Their property line changes throughout the entire.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Piermont was 40.
Okay.
I remember Piermont.
All right, so I just want to talk for a second about the concept of a community center, or a sports center, or whatever it might be. We've, as a community, as a town, we've been kind of talking about this for a few years, just knocking it around. We have this piece of land now, which has been sitting there for several years. We're doing a couple of things over there. We built the dog park. We've always been waiting for Andy to come to us with the general assessment about what we're able to do there if we chose to do it. And I think it would be helpful if we thought a little bit more cohesively about what we should do there. And should we do something for sports? Should it be all gardens? Should it be all passive? I think there's a lot of questions there. And one of the things I'd like to do is put together an ad hoc committee of some citizens to kind of think about some of the ideas of things we can do there, and see where it takes us, especially now that, Andy has given us a little bit of sense that we can do something. Okay? Go ahead, Julie, do you want to say something?
If you're putting a committee together, I'd be happy to be on.
I can't be too much.
I'd be happy to be on the committee.
Okay.
As my Jeff.
Good, Jeff?
So, a couple of things. One, a couple of months ago, we were asked to give our borough administrator input. And we did, to give them input about this property,
Okay, yes.
and the Roosevelt Commons property. So, if we did that, which we did, and he's kind of walked with it, and now it sounds like we want to go back to square one. What do we want to do with this property? We had some ideas. And so I'm not sure where we're going with this. What are the unmet needs specifically that we're talking about here? Because you put this under community center, you and I have discussed this,
Of course.
so for full disclosure, and I'm just wondering specifically, what are the unmet needs that we're hearing about from residents that we need to meet? Because I'm willing to meet unmet needs, but I'm not hearing that. I was involved in town sports for years. There's a shortage of fields. We'll all agree.
Of fields?
Of fields.
Yes, correct.
If we could make this a
Correct.
baseball, soccer, softball, lacrosse field combined that could be used by everybody with a basketball court that won't interfere, we know this property won't be big enough for
Correct.
that.
We'll be taking the parking lot that long one.
Well, and the other swing pool. So I guess just in terms of real unmet needs, that's my question here that we need to consider.
So I think the answer in my thought process is, we're not really sure what all the answers are. We're really at early stage here, right? The property's been there for several years, and you're 100% right. Fields is always a question. We need more field space. The concept of indoor basketball potentially, so that could be played 12 months out of the year. So I think there's lots of things to think about, and that really none of us have preconceived notions or, blueprints sitting in our back pocket that have been prepared. It's really kind of at the infancy here, because we've spent the past few years doing all this kind of preliminary, necessary discussion. We put a dog park there, spent a little money, and I think it's time to start getting serious about that property, because the land just sitting there doing nothing is kind of a waste of taxpayers' resource. And that's not to go on a spending spree. It could all wind up being one big field and we plant corn. I don't know, but I think we need to.
I guess the only reason I'm raising it, and you say no preconceived notion, but when you put it under the nomenclature of community
Well,
center.
I'm not going to lie and pretend I don't like the idea of this, like a community / sports center, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get my way.
So, I just think, I hope that we proceed with a much more open mind,
Yes.
because there's so many directions I agree that this property can go in. And as far as indoor basketball, I mentioned to you some recently,
Yes.
would be interesting to compare the cost of taking our courts here and seeing what would it cost to put it on.
Yeah, and that's
sort of a cover over, it might be an awful lot cheaper.
Yeah. Lauren?
So just to respond to Jeff and to you as well, Mayor, I mean, I think that a community gathering space doesn't just have to have one function. It doesn't just need to satisfy recreation. It can satisfy art and music and culture and green space and outdoor garden space all in one. And some of the spaces that I've had the opportunity to visit and walk amongst are some of the most incredible landscape design along with concepts. And so I think the beauty of this space and working with Andy and his team and hopefully, with our council, and I've been working on this for many years, the beauty of this space is that it can generate numerous things for our community. It doesn't just have to be any one thing. And I will say that in terms of recreation, since we were discussing recreation, the number one thing we are lacking in the winter is basketball. So I love the idea of doming, but we also need additional courts, so my 9-year-old doesn't play at 10 o'clock at night because we're lacking courts. And many families have spoken up about the lack of indoor community space. We can't have volleyball, we can't have indoor winter sports for some of this because we just don't have it. I have heard people want concerts, when the concerts get rained out, wouldn't it be great to have the amphitheater, wouldn't it be great to have a walking garden, There's many ideas here that we can explore, and so whether it's a structure or not, it's not limited to just that. It can be a structure and other outdoor activities, and so, I just think that we cannot be closed-minded. I've been exploring these ideas, I've been talking to Andy probably for how long, Andy, when we walked with us with the CPs? A long time. I absolutely want to be on this committee. I don't even know if it should be a committee, maybe we just have a public session here from the public. Because I think all 6 of us want to be involved in this, and so it's really difficult to narrow it down, but I will tell you, I'm so excited that Andy is here to explore these properties. You know, keep in mind, we own 4 properties in a row. Technically, we own the old pool club, we have a lease on the high school parking lot, we lease out the existing pool club, and then right after that is the DPW where we compost leaves for 5 acres. So there's a lot to explore here, and you figure out what's the best utilization of our own land. And I don't think the existing way that this is set up is the correct way. And, you know, I understand Andy's time is expensive, and, you know, I don't want to just shoot in the dark at 1,000 things. You know, it does need direction, but we can generate ideas from our public, and we have opportunities to include more than one here. You know, I don't think that we have to be so limited and say we must only have X. So I'm excited for this. I know the community is very much interested in developing this piece of land. We have open space. We have some wonderful private donors who have spoken to a few of us at least here who are interested in you know, creating a community space. And again, community space can be indoor, outdoor, and all of the above.
Mark?
Julie.
So just combining what Jeff and Lauren said for a moment is, I agree with Lauren's idea that maybe we don't do a committee, but in fact, keep the discussions with all 6 of us and, you know, and call in Andy as needed. But because, you know, he's giving a lot of good information, and I'm never speaking with our borough administrator about, we don't want to pursue ideas that are not even feasible as far as the state is concerned, you know, with the flooding and all that stuff. So we do kind of need this in the daylight. But also to Jeff's point, you know, it is true, like I know that at that time, which was the better part of 6 months ago at this point, I want to say that I gathered up a lot of information from people about the things they wanted to see. So I don't think it's a that we need to start at square one. I mean, I can redistribute that, you know, that list of things. I know Jeff had talked about outdoor amphitheaters. There are ideas that have been listed. So I guess it's just the combination of what the 2 of them are saying is, what is the best, maybe quickest way to move forward? Because people are eager to get, you know, our open space funding, purchasing the type of things that everyone can enjoy. So I'd just rather not stall.
Adam.
Yeah, so I'm actually a fan of this ad hoc committee. Actually, maybe one great idea would be actually none of the council people are on the ad hoc committee. Maybe, you know, Jimmy or someone else to help guide them a little bit. But this committee just doesn't, this council just doesn't move fast enough, and we just don't have enough time to be in the weeds. Great performing subcommittees actually do lots of work. That's their focus. We should find, I don't know, 7 members of the community. I would actually challenge that they're folks that actually know stuff, right? That actually have some of this background. I see some of the committees that I work with are amazing, with people 10 times smarter than me in a particular area. I think it's a good idea to have the 6 of us do this. Look, we've gone, what, 6 months and we've done nothing. So I recommend a dedicated group of folks that want to put in the time and hours to speak to people, to understand, and to make recommendations to the council, which ultimately the 6 of us are going to ultimately make the final decision.
Jeff. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have your hand up? Oh.
So, one of the reasons we run and one of the reasons we're elected to represent the people, not to pick, in all cases, people who we feel are or are not qualified. There will be questions about who those people are and what their agendas are. We do have agendas, but we put ours before the voters every 3 years. And that is our position. And maybe it's not fast enough for you. I get that. But you're talking about, what, this land, you know, council member David talking about, oh, I've been working on this for years, so have I. I was working on it when she was calling this land a piece of garbage and didn't want the dog park.
Well, I said it was contaminated.
No,
not
but
necessarily garbage.
we can go back to this, but we have a lot invested in this, and we have to answer to the whole community, not a small group. And to have a group of people work on it, and then it still has to come before us. That actually will probably end up adding more time to the process. Because we're gonna start at square one once we hear whatever the suggestion is anyway.
I would hope
It's
that's
a-
not big.
But we will, because this is a cost thing, we're not gonna have a lot of agreement. We need to come to consensus as a group. If we can't do that, then that's a sad state and a sad statement about us. But I believe we can come to consensus, but we keep going in 14 different directions. And we need to stop doing it. Ooh, this is shiny, so let's do this. This is shiny, let's work on that. I asked long ago, let's focus on this. Let's focus on this property. And I've been willing to do that, but we get pulled in different directions. And if it's a community center, and that's the consensus of the public, and that's what we have to answer for, and the cost, great. But I think it is this deliberative body that needs to work on this.
Can I ask Andy a couple questions, sir?
Sure.
So Andy, not to, spend lots of money, with our taxpayers, what, resources, what professional resources do you have for things like landscape design and concept planning? Is there anything within our engineering that exists? Because maybe I'm not a professional who could take a look at these pieces of property and see what's best and see what's restricted, but maybe someone on your end has that professional expertise. And maybe rather than, lay people residents or those of us here who, clearly we're very split on this, we can get some professional advice to help guide us.
So, we have an entire landscape division that does this stuff all over the country. It's just a concern I have, and we've been talking about this for a long time, is to get them engaged and tell them what we want done. So if you want just a nature center type park, then that's one thing. If you want walking trails, it's another thing. If you want a gazebo or some type of amphitheater, it's another thing. It needs to be direction. They can't come up with a vision for it. So they don't create the idea. They take the idea and make it the vision. Make the vision reality, 3D photos, and all the deal. And that's what they do. We're doing a kind of a big revitalization plan for Burn Park. Right? So Burn Park in Morris now, we're doing a huge plan. It's a big deal for them. The park's tired. We held 10 public meetings in the park for COVID outside, walked through all the groups. They gave us their vision. Each group said, we want this, we want that here, we want this. And then my landscape group took it, and we came up with their vision, which is, you want like a statue park here, you want gazebos and picture things that overlook the ponds here, you want restoration of the pond, you want nature walks here, and we built the vision both in 3D and planning. And then they take the vision and they can actually fund it. But they have to give us the vision first. It can't be the vision of Andy Kipler, because it may not be what the Tenafly Mayor and Council wants, the residents want. If it's going to be, this property is small, I want to overstate it. If you said to me, I want an athletic field, a community center, walking trails, nature park, well, I'm going to say to you, okay, we're back where we were a year ago. I can't do it all. You have to do one or the other.
So if I said we own 4 pieces of property simultaneously, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all in currently different uses, and I understand many of them are encumbered by contracts right now. So this is, again, a hypothetical only for this discussion. Could somebody tell us what the best use of that land would be? Given
So
restrictions?
in a perfect world, yes, but the perfect use of that property has to take into account the rest of that. So I don't know your numbers, is soccer and rugby sport, is lacrosse or rowing sport, is there some another need for, again, a nature center? Do you need a community garden? Do you need, I don't think, all that stuff is very important. It's taking up space. If you're gonna wipe out your leaf compost facility, where's that gonna go? So a lot has to come into account. It's more of a, again, it's more of a planning exercise, which you bring in planners that can walk you through all this, but again, you need to have a consensus of what's important. You have to identify what we need, what's your needs. And we have to walk you through your needs, but at the end of the day, we don't know the same stuff. You take your master plan, you look at recreation, and all forms of recreation, and then you start after recreation looking at other uses like Do you want to have some type of commercial use there to support your recreation? Do you want to have a community center? I don't know, pool, basketball courts? Do you want to put up a $500,000 dome that could have basketball, ice hockey, and amphitheater stuff? I don't know. I think you can do it all.
I mean,
That's 5 acres, you can do it all.
so I'm leaning on you because you're the professional here, and, you know, we as 6 council people are full of good ideas. Jeff has beautiful ideas too. I'm the garbage thrower. But, the concept is we are not, the 6 of us right now have so many different ideas that we're not able to come to consensus. At least that's what I'm hearing on this table. And rather than become a 3-3 split or, you know, have a big fight about this, I'd like maybe some professional guidance to say, look, while you may want a 10-story building, you know, clearly not going to happen in this way, and so you are limited to maybe 2 stories and, you know, pet park, whatever it is. It's like this is helpful, but again, I still think there's so many open questions. So my question really for you is, without taking 1,000 phone calls of your time, what should be our next steps in a professional way to figure out how to move this project forward?
So if we just look at the pool property, I don't believe inside the flood hazard area you can construct any building. You could construct probably an open air amphitheater. So when I say open air, have a cover on it, maybe have, you know, half a dozen columns that people can sit under. Maybe you could bring in a corporate stage and take it away when you're done. Filling up with positive reinforced stage is going to be a going on also. I think any walking trails, gardens, anything that's nature oriented like landscaping, that's all that passive stuff is very good. I don't believe this is you're going to create any parking here. All you have to use your existing lot next door or across the street, and the existing building you have there. In my opinion, you should look to repurpose it wherever you want to do it. If you want to save a building, like maybe if you need bathrooms, not going to happen, make nice, getting up some bathrooms, or repurpose it to like a meeting room and concession or something like that supports the amphitheater use if that's what you want, or not a gazebo. But in this property, you're limited to kind of an open air gazebo, nature trails, anything that has to do with gardening or like community gardens, that type of stuff.
Skate plaza.
Or repurposing the existing building.
Skate plaza.
Sorry.
Adam Denlar.
To your point, and again, let's not beat around the bush. Again, yes, I will always want to go faster. That's fine. Soon. My thing is, let's take a decision. So we have, to Councilman Grossman's point, we laid out our list of things that we want to do. Then let's help each other. How do we get to a resolution on these things? Actually, honestly, I'm still unclear. Yes, the state, the DEP would like us to make grass. We should strip mine all of Tenafly and just make it grass. That would be their recommendation. Absolutely. Perfect. Congratulations, they actually don't own Tenafly. I'm still unclear on, again, no one's doing 10-story anything. Let's not talk about a community center. Can we or can we not build, I don't know, Mayor.
Amphitheater.
Pick how big do you envision, you spoke about this community center. How big do you envision it? How much space is already sort of encumbered? It's already, what's the word, it's not permeable. Impervious.
So from a building perspective,
Yes.
probably the only place you could build a structure would be in this area that's like on there.
How big would that space be?
Small,
That's 20,000 square feet about?
100 by 75. Yeah, that's right up against the street, so.
Is it 20,000 square foot building? Is that correct?
What's the footprint is
It'd
20,000.
be like, I'd say, probably,
Right.
yeah, I would say it's probably about 10,000.
The footprint would be. That's
Is
the-
that,
Yeah, about 10,000.
10,000?
You make 2 stories, make it 20,000.
So,
yeah,
so,
but
okay.
so is that even a basketball court? I'm not doing.
So I'm going to interrupt for a second because we're getting, hold on a second, then we'll come back to you. Because we're getting into levels of,
What I just want to understand is, I'm trying to get to Councilman Gross's point. Let's not talk about things if it's physically impossible.
correct. So what I'm going to recommend is we kind of split the baby, and we have an ad hoc committee that has 3 council members on it, and 3 citizens and their first meeting or their second meeting, Andy is in attendance or by teleconference, so they can kind of have this conversation as a focused group to see what's possible. And it could be at the end of the first 1 hour, everyone's wasting their time, rip it all up and plant grass there and be done with it. Or it could be that there's ideas to be bounced around that may or may not work, right? That's the only way to be focused. All of us sitting here, doing it, it's
We're
just,
just not making progress. I just don't feel like we're making
Right.
progress. We've tried this for many, many months now.
Banu, please.
Yeah, I mean, my concern about, the selection of the management committee, is that, there's always a question of motivations, and, I think your councilman, mentioned that. But, my concern is that certain residents, won't have a voice, because, we have, people who would, we've already clearly come out in favor of a community center.
Well, I've been talking about that for 10 years. I'm not saying anything I've never said.
No, I'm just saying
Right.
that, so people who were selected by, this council or whatever, will start off with that kind of, mindset. I don't know that, we're not, are we going to get, 5 people from communities living on, which part of town? How are you, so each part of town, each area, people from different areas have different ideas of what they want. How do we get the majority of people?
Yeah.
coming up with their ideas?
You and I live around the corner, and we have very different ideas. We're from the same part of town. I'm just saying, and at the end of the day, the council votes says up or down, whatever idea is up. But rather than quadrants of town, I vote someone like a landscape architect, an actual architect, an environmental person, actual people with skills in this area that would be useful in the discussion.
Yeah, so
Or professional people.
Dan, go ahead, please.
So just to end and move forward, can we have a menu of ideas next meeting and just literally vote up or down on the ideas? You're just gonna get your feelings hurt, that's it.
So,
Like, just every menu of idea, everyone's ideas on a menu, we'll go through them. Community center, voted up or down. Skate park, voted up or down. And then we'll collect all
re-forward
those
mine.
ideas,
go ahead.
give it to Andy.
I'll re-forward the ideas that I had
Yeah,
ready.
whatever Jimmy
Yeah,
collected.
Yeah, Jimmy, if
Just-
you
just
have
up
that
and
from
down
the
vote.
past.
Maybe I can give you mine, but.
We could absolutely do that.
And then
Just-
Dan, to
just
your
move
point,
forward.
should it be reviewed then by Andy?
Whatever
Right.
survives the vote, we go back to the drawing board,
And then we
plan
put
it
our
out.
committee together to start investigating it.
Yes, and then we give it to Andy.
Is everyone good with that?
Whatever moves it forward.
What?
I think that's.
What-
I mean, it could be limiting though, because you're not gonna have enough facts to really decide whether you could do it or
But it's a
not.
start point.
So I have to say, it's a little bit restrictive only because there might be concepts that maybe a landscape designer has or an architect that I haven't come up with or any of us haven't come up with. I just don't want to not be able to include those things if, like, some
There's no
professional person or Andy's team can say, hey, how about this, that none of us thought. I just don't want to be.
So, you know what, I'll give the
But then you
idea
have to
this
make,
though.
that's the
Okay.
menu, make the menu. That's why you
Lauren.
sit up here.
Yeah, Dan, it's a stake in the ground. It's a task, it's something to be accomplished, even if after we take votes and people aren't happy with the decision, whatever it might be, or they want to add things to it at a later date, it's a place to start.
Can I get one thing for you?
Please.
I kind of like.
Put that on the agenda for August.
When I've been involved in this with other towns, I've done this in now Morristown, I've done it in Isaac, I've done it in Montvale, I've done it in a few other towns. If you have an idea in your head, you don't need a professional right now. What you need is to put your idea on paper.
Right.
So if your idea is the next giant stadium here, put it on paper. I'll probably tell you you can't build it there, but at least put it on paper. So we refer to it as green light thinking. Whatever the idea is, put it on paper. Until it's on paper, nobody can shoot it down.
Right.
Nobody say it's possible. I think if every one of you came up with your ideas, I could then walk you through and say, yes, no,
No,
yes,
yes, no,
no,
yes.
yes, maybe with a couple conditions. I can't do it until I see all your ideas.
Okay. Vinu, go ahead.
I might just suggest that, there's nothing wrong with being deliberative. There's the expression that sometimes when you do things fast, you actually do half fast. So, I think that's important.
Okay? That's the plan for August. Everyone get your ideas, if anyone missing, to Jimmy.
Andy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Andy. We appreciate it.
Wait, I'm sorry, can I just ask, can Andy speak again on the roads, or can we,
Is Andy speaking again?
can we do it now, Andy?
You want to talk about the roads a little bit?
If that's okay, Andy, I'm trying to get around.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll give you the short story and then you can ask me a question.
Let's go with the short story,
The
yes.
Riverside Cooperative we'll say around $300,000 on the budget. So the
Holy
bid came in way better than we ever expected.
Huge.
Because of the way the water is going,
The whole year.
going into these another set of roads, now we have money left in there. 2020 capital regular budget also is going to have about $300,000 left. I'm rounding numbers. So that's going to leave you about $600,000 to spend on
Jesus
additional roads.
Christ.
Through 2 years, I had this gigantic list of roads, so I still have a whole bunch of roads we haven't done yet. So I'm going to present to you for your next meeting. I'm waiting for the final numbers on final quantities for Riverside Cooperative. Is all the other roads we can do. And the good news is DNLP, the Riverside Cooperative, has said they'll hold their prices through the end of the year and they have no problem. They want to come back in the fall and do all these other roads. So you have the best of both worlds. You're going to get done this year
At that
probably
rate.
twice as many roads as you would have gotten done in any given year, all in one shot, because the
At
prices
that
are
rate.
so good, so you want to take advantage of it. So the next, when's your next meeting?
August.
August
Yes, so
9th.
by the August meeting, I'll have for you a list of roads with actual pricing, because Riverside Cooperative did, so I can put in the actual pricing to it and say, if you want to go ahead, DNLP, you'll do this, they'll give me a schedule, and this is what it's going to cost you exactly.
Okay.
It's a great situation, it really is.
Fabulous.
You're the only town actually taking advantage of it, believe it or not.
Good.
Do it.
So the other thing, just so you know, if you talk to Mike, I also want to add in, there's probably about, it's like 1,000 feet of curbing around town. There's curbing in Riverside Cooperative. We might as well get that done too. You know, they'll do it much more efficient, much faster, and you can do it as a piecemeal project. And they'll come in and just wipe it out and do it all in like 2 weeks.
Does that, Michael, does that include the downtown area that needs the new curbing? That's different. We budgeted for that separately, right?
You could do that with it too. But
Okay.
the downtown, be careful, brick pavers are
Yes.
not Riverside Cooperative. So if it touches brick pavers and it's restored, that's outside the cooperative, so it's outside the bidding, you know.
Understood, but we have separate budget for that stuff. Okay. Lauren, please.
So Suez has been around town, you know, I had some issues, they were repaving some of our roads, really not a stellar job, I would say. I know I spoke with the mayor, and asked them to even come back to some areas. One of the things they did, though, they actually took out curbing where they replaced pipes, and what they did is they just sort of took concrete and shoved it in like a semi-molded looking thing, and it's very unsightly, and it doesn't match most of the other curbing. Can we, so two things, one, can we ask Suez to come back and do a better job on curbing?
We have there's a list of locations, all you know is the locations, no fixes.
And two, if a street or resident wants to have either pothole fillers or curbing, what's the best way right now for them to get in touch with our council or Mike Cassidy? So that we can consider them for this next project.
For who do you get in touch with them?
So residents are always saying, well, I want my street.
So we be careful with this. If, someone lives in town, and I hear this on TV, I say, wow, I'd like the curbing from a house replaced. Is Tenafly paying for it, or are they paying for it?
Well, that's what I'm asking, so is that,
Tenafly's
is that
paying
an
for it,
option
you're
for
not
us?
having enough money, so.
Yeah, we can't have this
We're gonna be,
conversation.
between the $600,000 for roads and curbing, you're out of money. So we can't do any more this year. You could, if people have curbs they want done next year, you could try to add it to the list and become part of that next 1,000 feet.
I know when we, as the DPW committee, were talking about the 2021 roads, there were some very large roads that we were priced out of. Are we able to tackle some of those, or are we still under
We're
budget?
gonna try to add some of those back in. That's the goal. I'll just say, I'm waiting, by the end of this week, or next week, I'll have the final quantities for our paving and which I think will be below budget, so I'll have the exact number, and I'll piece it together with the 2020 and bring those all back in. I'm going off the list. If you go back to like February, you have this list, there's this big list of roads. I'm going off that list. So
Okay.
you'll see it's going to be filling in that list.
And that's what the committee generated.
Now, when I give it to you, I'll give you the original list, you can see it, I'll put the new one on top so you can see that. Because remember, I based on pricing that we were estimating based on bids we had earlier this year. Riverside Cooperative bids blew all out of the water, it just changed all the bids. They were so far below everything else was crazy.
That's great.
Okay.
Good pricing.
Thank you, Andy. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's time to move along, right? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We'll
Thank
see
you
you,
so much.
we'll see you August 9th. Thank you. Okay, 2021 New Jersey League of Municipalities Conference.
I could quickly touch on that there. Included in the packet is some of the information details of the district upcoming league conference in person. So all you need to do just right now is email Omar, your company on email, if you'd like to attend, if you're attending the whole time or not, then which, where you want your booking to be reserved. So that's really it, just we want to provide information and email us and make the reservations for both the conference itself and also the reservations for the stay, the hotels. So we just need confirmation, yes or no, if you're attending, if you're attending partial or full time, and the location.
Well, what's the deadline for that, Omar? Jimmy?
ASAP, I mean, the reservations for the conference itself opens up August 1st. The reservations for the hotels have opened up, I believe, June 1st. So just sooner the better, just because I'm sure we would be eager to go back this year and just want to go back to the, have everyone reserve the preferred location. So sooner the better.
And they're offering online options, or
Yeah,
it's all in person only?
All in person.
Okay.
Lauren?
Julie asked my question,
Okay.
I wanted to know if we could attend, so no virtual programming, Jimmy.
No, not my knowledge, no.
Wait, I'm sorry, say it one more time, what's the deadline?
There is no deadline, but definitely the sooner the better, just because we want this, rooms booked up pretty quick for, hotels, so. Sooner the better.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Okay, next on the item E, bamboo. I put this on the agenda. A couple of residents have raised the question with me, the idea of bamboo, which grows, and I'm no expert on bamboo, but it runs, it clumps, and we've got some residents, it's what?
Like a week.
It's like a weed, and it goes into other people's property, and so perhaps we should consider an ordinance, something along the lines, if someone is choosing to grow bamboo on their property, they have to do whatever they have to do to make sure it stays on their property and doesn't encroach on their neighbor's property. Manu?
I was just wondering if that's something that we can put in a tree ordinance. Does it constitute?
Mark?
So I'm not an arborist, perfectly good question. Wendy, so congratulations, you're the bamboo expert now.
So, as council president was just saying to me, that yes, in fact, a lot of towns are just banning any planting whatsoever because it is so, it spreads so easily, and the issue is also it's very difficult to fully remove so that it doesn't regrow once you put it out. Really, right now, the tree ordinance is more about how to mitigate for loss of trees. But certainly we can find something within the zoning code book where it could go.
So before we start writing, how does the council feel about this concept?
Other towns have just flat out banned it, so we should just flat out. It's an invasive species.
Let's have
Just
some
flat out ban it.
recommendations. Okay, so we're gonna talk about banning it.
Just flat out.
The future, but then they have to deal with people who have to put on their own property.
Okay.
So whatever that means. Jeff?
And we already have sections that deal with weeds, ragweed, all that under property maintenance,
So we'll add bamboo or, okay, so
It also destroys curbs and roads, up on the
Destroys everything.
there's a definite area where it's.
we have some on the edge of our property.
Really hard to kill, apparently.
Yeah.
Like really hard to kill.
All right, so maybe next meeting possibly? Okay, thank you.
We did this already, though.
Food insecurity, who put this? Lauren? Go ahead, please.
So actually, I was working a little bit with Jimmy on this, and Adam, you've been working on this much longer than I have, but and I'll do this more in my committee reports, but the Senior Services Committee met, and two things. One, they were incredibly thankful for the Tenafly Cares program in which meals were delivered. It was just an unbelievable life-saving measure for many families and individuals residents here in Tenafly. And not only was it food, but it was also, human contact during this pandemic. It's been very long. Adam, amazing job. And, thank you to Andrew Till as well. But this is a more permanent request. So what is happening is it's not just the seniors, some of the seniors that are still food insecure, but it's also other families. And I will tell you that this came up, it was very interesting discussion. It came up because the senior van, which takes our seniors in and around places, is actually very frequently going to food banks right now. And so we've stopped our Tenafly Cares delivery, and there's an enormous increase in the need for fresh groceries and so forth. So what I would like to do is ask this council if they're interested in establishing something more permanent within town. And Adam, I think I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're much more knowledgeable than I am on this, and Adam's been working with the county, which also has some excellent resources. And so this is to be considered. Do we want to establish something more permanent and ongoing so that not only our seniors who need the help, but our other families and residents who we were feeding, and some of which came throughout this whole pandemic, to have something here in place. So there's some privacy issues, so maybe we loop in Alicia, our new HR director, in terms of how a family would apply to the borough to be considered for the program. It would have to have, a lot of privacy, and, we have so many support systems here that are so amazing for residents, but we don't have this one. So just throw it out there.
Comments? Yes.
No, it's great. Thank you, Councilman Dave. I'd love to get the thoughts of the council. So I have spoken with both the state and county folks that, based on the work that we've been doing for the past year and a half, are actually very eager to bring it here. They told me they provide all the food we'd ever need.
All the what?
All the food we'd ever need.
The state.
The state and county, number of people that I've been working with. The challenge is twofold. One is you need it's not a kitchen, but a storage area with some refrigeration, which, we don't have a lot of space in town. So we would have to find our own space, that's one. And then two is, you have to organize people to staff it.
And a nice lid, nice.
And those are the two things that have driven some hesitation from my perspective. I just didn't think we had.
When you're talking about cooked and prepared food?
No. It's just groceries, but you need to have the fruits and vegetables chilled, or you need some. There's milk. There is some refrigerated space you need. So that's the only, honestly, and I appreciate Councilman Dave for bringing it forward. That's the only thing that's been thrown hesitation for me. But if the council is open to it, it's something that, again,
How's the council feel
build
about
a
this
network
issue?
now.
Laura?
So Adam, that's an amazing idea, but I will say that one of the angles, and I love that idea, so I just want to say this is just an alternative. One of the things we discussed at the senior services meeting wasn't necessarily that we have the food here, but that we can set up families or residents to even, Center for Food Action or the.
Oh, that's definitely something you do. Absolutely.
But something that we were hoping to facilitate, when somebody comes to the borough and says, I'm having trouble, or I need some additional help here with food, we have resources and somebody designated for that. And I'd love to set up a food bank. I absolutely would love us to get to that stage. And maybe that's part of the process, but what I want is, we don't really have a division right now that's dealing with food insecurity. We clearly saw it in the pandemic. It's an incredible thing that's in every community right now, and has been. It's just at the forefront right now. So.
Okay, so why don't, Jeff?
It sounds like something we should be able to set up as a resource on our new improved website. I mean, we should be helping residents with any resources whenever possible. And there is the Center for Food Action.
Right in Englewood. Right in Englewood.
Right here in Englewood. So this should be really not that complicated
At all.
to at least get started. The next step that you're talking about may be more complex, but let's get this step started quickly. I mean, it just seems obvious.
So there's some moving parts here.
Right.
So I'm hearing Center for Food Action, which means other towns, other jurisdictions, whether we have some sort of shared services agreement with another town, that's all good stuff.
They're a nonprofit. It's just,
Yeah,
it's a resource.
nonprofit.
We just, you point them in the right direction. That's what you can do.
Some organizational information about, because I think as fantastical as it is with resident volunteers delivering meals, it's a whole nother level when you're talking about doing this as a regularly scheduled thing.
Correct.
Okay? So I'm gonna, congratulations, Jimmy, you're the borough administrator. I think we should ask Jimmy to kind of be the organizing point for the information. And perhaps you and Councilman Michaels have a detailed conversation. He's had conversations with the state. And you start sharing information to report back to the council about how we would actually execute on this concept and what are the pitfalls and how do we make it work successfully? And what are the social service aspects of it in terms of communication?
Can I just add something, Jimmy? And Jeff, I'm saying this respectfully. So the website is a wonderful idea, but many of the people who need this aren't necessarily on the website, whether it's a senior or, we had some people who, weren't using the website on the computer, or they spoke a second language or a different language. So again, there's people who call up the borough and say, I need delivering meals. And so I just want to be able to direct them in a very private way to the resources that they need.
Okay, are you clear on that?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, you and Adam more than. Okay, all right.
I want to be clear, we're talking about, pretty much, as Adam just kind of mentioned, we're not talking about full prepared meals, we're talking just general.
Food distribution, right.
Groceries.
Right, food distribution.
And right now, by the way, we're doing that in our senior van. We're bringing that to the food banks in Bergen Field, CFA, and other places right now.
Okay, all right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. So you were,
That's it.
Susan,
Yeah,
yeah.
Sue.
Susan, step up to the microphone, congratulations.
Thank you. Give me a chair.
Okay. So basically, the government is still, the state is still coming out with more guidance. So as of right now, the eligible uses that they are, saying that the local communities can use are broadband coverage, water and sewer. These are our sure bet items. The federal government will be highly scrutinizing what the funds are used for. The recording version will be due October 31st. But one of the things that Congress noted was that the internet access broadband was lacking during the pandemic. It was high-speed, reliable, affordable broadband coverage was underscored during the health emergency. Now, part of the eligible uses for looking into broadband or any of the uses of for water or sewer, you could use the recovery funds for pre-project development. So the governing body can look into like studying and analyzing this and bringing in specialists, providers to look at the broadband, to evaluate and access the needs of the community to better enhance broadband coverage. But I wanted you to know that there's other things that we're trying to find out. One of this time to Dr. O'Connor's insight on the electric cars and trying to find out if going green would be an eligible use, and they haven't gotten back to us yet. So right now, this is what we know today. Yes.
Lauren?
So broadband, sewer, water, we spent during 2020 on all three of those things. So I'm just still confused on the rules. We can't go back to 2020 spending and cover
So the state has informed us that we can only look at items from March 3rd of 2021 forward. So, and it cannot be funds that are being committed, meaning that if it's been encumbered, it's not an applicable fund, it's not eligible going forward. So I know you would think that we've already spent on COVID, that you would go back and you use the recovery funds for that, but you can't. But they did also look at the loss of revenue. So even though our loss of revenue was actually about 1.1 million because they put in a growth factor. So they said whatever your percentage is, or 4.1%, the greater of the two, you can use in the calculation. So our loss of revenue was less, than the 4.1, and we were allowed to use that, so 1.1 million is our loss of revenue over an average of the last 3 years for the calculation.
Okay.
You know, one of my view on this, the 1.4 million, is that 100% of it should really be considered to be used for what is facing and directly benefits the residents. Whether it's broadband, you know, because that's an issue that, you know, and whatever that means in terms of that information technology. We only have one provider in town. If somehow we were able to use this money to entice another one to come in town, upgrade the line, I don't know the answer. All I'm saying is the money should be used for something that directly benefits the residents, whatever it might be.
I think it's residents and local, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from stuff I read, it's residents and local businesses also. I think I sent Susan an article that, and I'm not saying we should do this, I'm just saying the article that I read.
Yep.
I think it was in the League of Municipalities magazine. That's a hot magazine. You guys, that is, so they
I'm
have
not
a
allowed to read that
article.
around the kids.
No. What they were doing, and again, don't hold me to this, but they were wanting to like give money, they were giving like chips or something to the residents to spend locally, right? So it's to actually help the local businesses as well. But it goes directly to your point of the goal is to spend the money and keep it, you know, in the town, get the town better.
Right, and directly benefiting the residents.
Yeah.
Yes, Julie.
So I just had a question for Susan.
Of course.
So just so I'm clear, I remember you saying how we had passed a budget, but we haven't spent our money yet, right, for this upcoming year. So this American Rescue Plan money, so that can be used or for this upcoming year, the things that haven't been expended? I'm just a little.
Okay, so in our capital plan, we have things like culverts, repairs, and related to sewers. Any money that hasn't been committed yet, we encumber the funds as soon as we know that we need to commit them so that we have them and we're ready to pay. We could use that money for that. So we just passed the capital plan in May 11th, so a lot of the funds are not committed yet. But once they're committed, if we're not using these recovery funds, then we, you know, as long as we don't commit them ahead of time, we use the funds for that, fine. But I think that this should more or less be more of a forward-looking.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be to look forward, because we've already developed that capital plan.
Correct.
So now we should be thinking of other items to move forward with.
Right.
So that we can make the best use of these funds. Not that that wouldn't be, but we could add something to it.
That's your recommendation?
Yeah, because, you know, the broadband was definitely lacking, and wait for the other guidance, which they promised us from the state, which I don't know if this will happen, but, you know, they're working on it. There's a lot of latitude that they're trying to hone in on. So they're trying to figure out exactly what is eligible, that will not be so highly scrutinized that some of the local unions, they don't want them to start paying the money back. So we have to make sure we go to the sure bet of definitely with eligible.
Not even capital, straight up operating.
We should look forward to see what else we can get.
But it would,
That's my recommendation.
so it would be a danger for us to move forward, though, if the idea we have gets rejected. That'd be big mistake, basically. We should be super clear that whatever we put in will get accepted, right?
Well, we, in finance, we're asking a lot of questions, and I don't know the exact time, deputy states that he had one town asking for mobile, library mobile book mobile, right? That's definitely out of question.
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot of crazy ideas coming up right now. Those are the fees, if any of the local units spend money on non-eligible use, they're gonna end up having to pay back. So we have to make sure that what we do is what we can do.
Okay.
Lauren, you had a question? Then we're gonna move on.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So actually, just I'll
Two.
last question of this. You said if we apply and it's a non-eligible use, will they tell you before we encumber the money?
Well, no, the money gets covered by us. If there's some suggestions that you have, you can bounce them off of me, and then I will write to the state and ask them, do you know if it's an eligible use? Right now, they have some questions themselves about what's an eligible use.
Right.
So they're not clear themselves, and they're meeting with other attorneys and other colleagues to figure out, hey, this is an eligible use. Sometimes these things go out and they're not totally defined yet.
So then I have some follow-up. So a couple questions, maybe you know the answer. The sewer repair that we just did on Grove Street, is that eligible?
It's an eligible use as long as the funds weren't spent before March
3rd.
Do you know if that was the case?
The Grove Street, I think we put it in the temporary capital plan, and I'd have to look at whether the PO was put through, and if the PO was put through before March 3rd, it would not be an eligible use.
The fire truck, are you able to do any portion of it?
See, the fire truck is not going to be
That's not a,
You can't use it for that.
supporting public health expenditure? That
Well, it really has to be, they're not saying anything about vehicles right now, or SUVs, trucks, any of that right now. I mean, we did find something, in some of the legislation that mentioned roads. So, but they're still not clear on that either.
And what about the culvert repair project that we have, that's over at $500,000?
Those are eligible.
So the culvert and the sewer, are you able to,
All
that
that
combination of that?
But if you were to commit the funds before March 3rd, which for this year's capital plan, we wouldn't, because we didn't adopt it.
Right.
What about the plexiglass and everything that's coming in, like small expenditures, plexiglass, safety, disinfectants?
So these type of things, I probably wouldn't use it for. I would go for a big thing.
Yes.
Like something that is really important to the community.
Something that we would cut from the budget because it's so big every
Yeah,
year.
something that you wouldn't really be able to plan for or you have to do.
Something we always defer.
This is gonna be $1.5 million. And this is, really a gift to all
Yes, it is.
communities.
All right, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
One final question?
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
No, never mind, I'll ask it later. Never
Okay.
mind.
Susan, thank you.
Go ahead, Banu has a question. Sorry, Susan.
Who's asking the question?
Susan?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, you included as part of your package, the detailed budget for town centers.
Yes.
And there were a few items, I was working with, that were a little concerned. One was, in general, it seemed like the budget was, coming in below average. I don't know what the timing is of receiving invoices and stuff like that, whether all the June 30th invoices and stuff were in by the June 30th deadline. But the one thing that we can talk about is things like salaries, overtime, and stuff like that. There were a couple of overtime amounts that were particularly very high. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so we, I noticed some of the overtime was up to the annual budget, and there was a lot of overtime. One of the reasons for the DPW, I don't know, was the last storm, which is not going to be covered by any emergency act. So that brought Mike's area up. And Mike and Jimmy were informed, and they are addressing the issue of the overtime. They've already they're acting on it.
Okay. But in one case, for example, the overtime is over what was budgeted for that item.
Yes, and so Mike's aware, and he's addressing it. And some of what Mike does, and maybe you want to speak to this, is that when we get special requests, which are ongoing, and he has to send the people out to do the jobs, there's something that might not have been anticipated. But the overtime does tend to creep up, and he's really watching it now.
That's just my concern. sometimes it does tend to creep up and then it tends to end of the year.
Yeah, so, we basically, you want to say anything about it, what you're doing?
We've had a rough start to the year with all the snow, and I think I probably approached the snowstorm a little differently than DPW has in the past. And that's going to be the biggest drain on the budget. All ancillary overtime right now, the canceled down there, everybody knows it, what we're paying right now, it's on the concerts. I actually spoke to Councilman Grossman, see if there's anything in their budget that they can kick in to the overtime for our contributions down there. And, we're trying to work through it. Hopefully it stays low, we don't get any more storms.
Thank you.
Is the overtime, it's not in the concert budget?
At this point, we barely have the concerts in the concert budget.
Yes, so no.
So no, I have almost no money in. People have not contributed to the concert.
But town-wise, you're saying for like the,
Yeah, but that
donation-wise?
was, I needed to supplement that to make the concerts work.
Mayor, if I could add in.
Like overtime.
Go ahead, please.
We are being more mindful of items that, trying to rearrange the schedule a little bit for items that can be done during the day, that meets the film deal or whatever it is, I'm thinking more complicated items, just showing how we're approaching it. There's some items that can be done during the day on regular time, we're moving out to introduce.
Very good point. Very good point.
And Ginny, I'm gonna make a request to loop in our new HR director to some of that as well. They were dealing with overtime and Susan obviously on the overtime payment, so.
They charge.
One other related question. I thought that, the legal services, expenses, were getting in budget, it showed that, like 42%, 44%.
So we didn't get May yet, June yet. Those figures are up to May year to date.
So it's
May
only
and June invoices, for all of our construction.
So it's up to me, but if you added it in, were you able to get June as well, or?
I didn't hear you.
And were you able to get June?
Just for May, right, June, and that's going to be, I think it's $16,000, it's going to put it over.
So
I did June today. So it's going to be over the 50% mark for June.
I think we have to be very, very careful, because I can see that there remain certain, issues and expenses that may come up in the latter part of the year. So we have to keep that control.
When I see something, I will let you know, and then we can address it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to correspondence. Michael, you're over there? Okay, the first letter we have, everyone, I hope has read the email and conversations we've been having with Mrs. Beck regarding a petition for trees. Michael, do you want to come up and just talk about this a little bit for the council?
Sure. I just sent an email to some council and Jimmy. Basically, we were called out there. Tree foreman met with Ms. Beck. She then contacted Mayor Zena, who contacted me. I went back out, measured the trees there outside the borough right away. Beyond the 10-foot mark. No question about it, it's not even close. So I informed her of that. She said, no, I'm sure you know. She insisted the town took the old trees down and planted the new trees. So basically I said, I can't do it on private property. If I can find paperwork somewhere that says that we planted those trees, I'll take responsibility for them. Lo and behold, she's got 3 trees on the property. She's concerned about the 2 easterly trees. The westerly tree is the only thing I can find any record of. We took 1 tree down, 2 months later planted a new tree. It's still there, and that also was planted out of the right of way. I have no answer for that. I can't tell you why, but that's the case. And at this point, I just told her, I can't take responsibility for trees that are definitely not on borough property.
Lauren?
Thank you for going over there. This resident clearly written us a couple times to council when she's very upset. And I think you know, it might have been a little looser maybe when they were planted. My question is, does she have any pictures of when they were planted or anything?
She couldn't
No
provide me
evidence
with
of any
anything.
other kind?
She couldn't provide me with anything but, you know, guesses on maybe 15, 18, 19 years ago.
Do we want to consider grandfathering these in at any point, given her adamant, you know, see that they were planted by the
That's
town?
slippery slope
Yeah.
for me. For me, I would say no, I would leave that to you.
Yeah, that's, because then the next person's going to want.
20-year tree, you guys planted it.
I understand that.
And this isn't, and Michael can talk about this also, this sort of conversation is a regular conversation with residents, right? In terms of, take this down, don't take it down, who planted it, you know. This is a normal sort of thing. This situation, though, is a little,
And just by way of the records, the new work order program came in around 2016 or so, before the old program went, but the staff in the office actually downloaded all the work orders from there. I went through all of them, hundreds and hundreds of them,
Okay.
by page, 10 on a page, and there is no record of them, so.
what's the story with the third tree? I'm not clear on that.
The third tree, actually, again, we have a record that says tree was removed, and 2 months later, a new tree was planted. But when they planted it directly in line with the other 2 trees that are there, and it's outside the right of way.
Right.
Again, I can't explain it, it was
Right,
2009. So,
Can I ask a different question? Did you deem the trees to be a hazard?
no. The roots from these trees are creeping towards her brick pavers. She did claim that somebody tripped and fell on her property while visiting her. That is her concern. Trees themselves are in beautiful shape. They're, you know, not unhealthy at all, but they have shallow root zones. So, and again, if I was directed to remove those trees, now I have to be working basically 5 feet from her front door to get all those roots out of there. So it's not like I'm just going to be close to the street and doing the 10, 11 foot. I have to be all the way up on her lawn now taking those roots out.
What's your recommendation here?
What my former position, what we would do is basically say anything outside the boroughs right away, feel free to do what you feel you need to do. You should be grind all those roots out, landscape come in and tear them out. But in this case, the entire tree is on the other side of the right of way. So it's not something that normally we would even get involved in. It would be, here you go, you know, we waive permit fees if she was to, you know, if it's decided that she has to deal with it, we could waive their permit fees to ease the cost, but.
So she can take them down, she chooses to take them down.
And she'll have to mitigate, yes?
Well, that's something that I would say probably waive also. But, again, that's a decision for you guys.
I would wait.
Why would we waive that
Right.
if it's a healthy tree?
Because it's causing her, A, a hardship, and B, it is technically a hazard, somebody already tripped and fell. And she encouraged everybody in the email to come and take a look at it. I don't know if you really want to make site visits or not, it gets a little cumbersome.
So in other words, you're saying that they're hazards, and therefore she doesn't have to mitigate?
That would be the tack I would take if we were going to go that route, just to help lessen the hardship on
I
her.
think that's really the solution.
I would say waive the taking down fee, but require mitigation. But, I don't know. I mean,
I
the whole
agree.
goal of our tree mitigation is to get trees back up.
Yeah,
But
I
again,
agree.
and I don't even know on her property if that's possible, if there's an area that that's possible.
The other option she has is to just eliminate the roots that are offending at this point. I can't say that they'll never grow back, but that is another option. You know, it's not the best option, but it is another option. Lessens the cost to her.
So maybe what we do is we explain to her again that this is her private property, and if she does come back with a request, depending on what the request is, whether we deal with it then, but maybe she just leaves it. We don't know what she's gonna do,
Right.
and that's.
I mean, if the trees are hazardous, they're hazardous, right? I mean, so, and if it's a hazardous tree, you don't have to mitigate, do you?
Sorry?
If it's a hazardous tree, do you have to mitigate? Right, so
No,
that's,
and there's, I believe you can take one tree down on your property, as a resident without paying, the big permit fee as well, no?
No.
I don't have it in front of me, I
They do
apologize.
one now, they do
I mean, to
one.
me, is it an actual hazard that the tree itself is dangerous, or is she just worried that people are going to trip?
It's the
Those are very
it's the
different
root zone.
hazards.
It's the root zone that is causing the hazard.
Would cutting the roots back kill the tree?
Depends on the severity, it depends on the severity, yes, absolutely.
So at the end of the day, there is the extrapolation to the tree being hazardous based on the roots needing to be cut.
But you mentioned slippery slope before, to Lauren's earlier question. I mean, it's a slippery slope with this idea of what is a hazardous tree too. You know, that's our concern, I think, from a few council people shaking their heads, is we could say many things are hazardous and get around the existing tree ordinance. No?
so you want us to just go back to the resident and tell her they're her trees? There you go.
Without any extra qualifications and directions, basically.
I wouldn't mind waiving the fee if she's to take them down, if that's her decision, but then just let her follow the statute and come before us and apply for the tree permit, and they can go through. You know,
Okay.
Is there space in the right of way for a tree that we can do?
There's wires on that side of the street,
Mm-hmm.
so, and that could be the entire reason why.
They were pushed back.
All right, thank you, Michael.
Can I ask a different question?
On this particular situation,
Well, John, this is just sort of a procedural question. When there's an issue like this, do you go yourself, or does the tree foreman go? Because I know you said you spend a lot of this time, and thank you for that extra
Right.
time.
In this instance, it would be the tree foreman first, and which is what happened. He went out and met with her, and then she contacted, he contacted me, I went back,
Okay.
and that's how I wound up in there. This wasn't a tree permit question, this was she thought it was a tree, a borough tree, and called the tree guy, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
thank you, Michael. Okay, the next correspondence is from Rabbi Shane regarding the menorah lighting event on Monday, November 29th. Everyone's good with this?
Yes.
You are?
So, of course, I'm good with lighting a Hanukkah menorah in our town. Thank you, Rabbi Shane, for this. I would like to have no food. It says entertainment and refreshments. Can we just say food is tentative depending on the state of Delta?
They had it last year.
They had food last year?
So they had individually wrapped.
Individually
Yeah.
wrapped.
But then did everyone take off their masks and stand in
They
the
were
hall
encouraging people to take it
Yeah.
home.
to take it home? Okay.
Yeah, I was with
They did
you
serve
and you.
food.
I will have a conversation with them to make sure it's individually wrapped.
Common sense.
They had it.
Depending on the COVID situation.
December 2021.
Everything at this point is always depending on, right? Okay.
So can I talk about the next correspondence? I have an opinion on this one.
On which one?
The third one, the
Oh, okay, we're
sidewalk.
getting to that now.
Okay, so,
Okay, so this is, everyone's read the correspondence from Lisa and Jason Corral over in Birchwood. Go ahead, Julie.
so I just wanted to let my fellow council people know, like, you're really not going to find a more pro sidewalk person than me. Like, I love sidewalks. You see me walking everywhere in this town because I walk everywhere. But if you take the Google map, the pictures that she'd sent didn't do this justice at all. If you go and take the little person on the Google map and make a street view, this is nuts. This is basically a sidewalk in the middle of a street that's full of grass, and there's just sidewalk in front of these people's houses. It is the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. It was like it starts from nowhere and it ends to nowhere. I mean, yeah, it's totally reasonable, this request. I mean, they have a sidewalk in front of their house with absolutely every other neighbor not having a sidewalk. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, I wish they kind of had put a hyperlink into the Google map, but I was like, yeah, and I love sidewalks, I want sidewalks everywhere, but yeah, I'm totally supportive of letting them take out the sidewalks.
Laura?
One neighbor has this schedule.
So, I hear you, this is a ridiculous situation. However, I'm not sure that the solution that I want to encourage is to remove it. What of course I would encourage is to continue the sidewalks.
I hear you.
I mean, we are in such desperate need of sidewalks that I would hate to start a precedent that we're removing it. So my question is, are we able to fix this so that this connects logically to somewhere? And if so, is anyone interested in that solution?
Well, there are no sidewalks on Old Smith Road.
It literally is, go to Google Maps right now,
yeah.
like it literally is just.
Two houses.
Just in front of their
I
house.
drove past, I know, I went to go see it.
There's nothing.
But again, so is the solution that we remove it, or is the solution that we build sidewalks and connect it?
So, two things, if I may, to that, because number one, you have a lot of old trees, I know that area, real, a lot of old trees where you would be affecting the root systems.
They
So
don't even know.
you can only, if you stay within the 10 feet right away, which is not always possible in those situations, and that street's one of them. Two, you have the brook going right through near there, and the more impervious coverage that you add by extending sidewalks, the more you're going to tax that waterway and create flooding conditions. So while I am the only one on my block who supported sidewalks for its fiscal, I think, there are compelling reasons here. Those trees either have to go or will continue to push the sidewalks up to the roots, and I'd hate to see those trees go. It's a beautiful area.
Sounds like on this one, we let them take the sidewalk out because of this very unique set of circumstances.
Yes.
All right, Jimmy, got that? Communicate with the resident.
No, yeah, understood, but just from my standpoint, what documentation, just want to create.
Yeah, it's interesting, your ordinance doesn't provide for the ability to remove any sidewalk.
Right.
So is that the answer?
So, I guess,
There's no power.
I mean, the sidewalk's falling apart. There's no other sidewalks around.
so I guess the question is, does it
Sidewalk
really,
exists.
fall under the definition of sidewalk?
Listen.
And that might be one thing, but you know what, I'll coordinate with Jimmy and
Right.
see what
Figure out a way
exactly
to,
needs to happen.
and that's fully at the resident's expense.
And I have
Right.
one more question
Not the
though,
boroughs.
is this letter to the mayor and council the first that the resident has made application, or did the resident make application for removal through other means of the building department, or
But that I can't answer.
He
I don't know
knows.
that.
They call DPW.
they called you, okay.
So I would like to add something to this, if this is going to be the result. I would like to just make sure that there's not some ADA or differently abled need here, that this was addressing, that's all.
Well, it's not contiguous, so it wouldn't have actually addressed
And even
it.
if it did, at one
Even if it's
point,
walking on their street,
it would be more dangerous to actually
Right.
ride on this,
because it's so broken.
Right.
I'm just
Okay.
throwing it out there, because again, we need to remember who focuses on sidewalks.
Mayor, if I may suggest Wendy and I speak, maybe might
Yes.
as well get cover the
Yes.
appropriate legal.
Okay, any questions about the resolutions?
I mean, I'm sorry, just one thing, I would love to, again, just continue to drive efficiency here. Absolutely, this was a letter sent to the mayor and council, it should be in correspondence. These are really, I believe, pretty easy things that, we're gonna go to our borough attorney anyway from an ordinance perspective, or our borough administrator. Again, these are like slam dunk things to me that, you know, Jimmy's done an amazing job. I entrust Jimmy to do these things as a borough administrator. It's just a good example, I'm sorry to bring it up, of, like, this shouldn't be 10 minutes of the council's time, but it's just my point of view, again, from, I've been going to more and more council meetings in other towns. Meetings are just a lot faster, and it's because I've never seen these type of things go to, the mayor and council to be discussed.
If I may, they are listed in most agendas, even if they're not discussed, because, I mean, for Open Public Meetings Act purposes, it's a way of showing what has.
So that's great, too, so maybe we just put it in, and again, unless the council member wants to bring it up, it's the exception versus the rule of going through it. Because I just trust our professionals. No one knows streets better, why should we come to the council?
Okay, any questions on the resolutions? Yes.
Yeah, just one thing I need clarification on. It's actually the second one, R21-279. It's the security deposit, Davis Johnson Park. And I understand we have a security deposit. The event is listed as 7/27/21, which hasn't happened yet. And I would assume the security deposit is for making sure that there's no damage to the kitchen. So either that should be 7/27/20, and I don't think we were allowing events there, or this seems premature.
Or it was
Is it like in
6/27.
escrow?
It's an escrow that's being refunded upon inspection.
Yeah, by Rossi.
Can you just word it this way?
We'll go back to it.
Yes,
Or the
but
permit
I'll
fee
have to
includes
refund
it.
the kitchen. You're correct, yeah.
Kitchen.
Plus a refundable $100 kitchen use security deposit fee in accordance with rules and regs. Whereas
It hasn't-
Joseph Rossi, Supervisor Buildings and Grounds, has inspected the premises and provided written notification that the refundable kitchen use security deposit may be returned unless the person has no intention of using.
Did they
But that's
cancel?
not how it reads.
I'm honestly unaware of this situation and scenario. Either maybe we just put it off until next meeting, so it passes the date. And if they wait a couple extra weeks to see their security deposit, I don't want to operate on that level of information. But I think it's okay if we hold off and we'll put it on for next meeting once we get some more clarification.
Yeah, I didn't mean to make that, it just didn't, didn't seem logical.
No.
And I actually sometimes like to try readings.
It's just like, in terms of date that we have.
Yeah. All right. Other than that, I did have a question, because we've been doing this a long time now, several years, and I don't remember seeing so many zoning permit fees. Are they just cleaning house right now? Because it seemed like there was one zoning review permit fee returned after another, and I just don't ever recall seeing, let alone two, let alone however many that were here.
The engineering escrow?
What?
The engineering
Yeah.
escrow refund?
Yeah.
They're playing catch up.
They're playing catch
I
up?
think so. From the budget season, I remember something about that.
Okay, 'cause I
People were
don't,
playing catch up.
yeah, I just don't remember this many.
Not this many, no, but
Okay.
this is also our first pandemic.
That's true. That was it.
279, right? Okay, any other questions about the consent agenda? No? Okay. Alrighty. For the good of the order?
Wait, I have a question about the minutes. I was
Oh,
reading.
okay,
Too
questions
much
about-
time reading.
Wait, let me see, any questions about the minutes?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Grossman, please.
So the vote on the consent agenda, when we get down to that, we had taken R21-270 out to approve refunds for youth center. We took that out and voted separately because Council Member O'Connor had a conflict, and this reflects her vote as aye, where it should be abstain.
Or, yeah.
Or, yeah, no, it would be.
I wasn't trying to pull one over on anybody. Good point.
So that would need to be corrected because we pulled that out so that she didn't vote on it and she reflected voting yes.
We can vote on these minutes next meeting.
Hmm?
We can vote on these minutes next meeting after Omar fixes them or something.
Or just as,
We can be voted on as amended.
as amended.
On the day
So
of
which one is that?
standalone.
Which one is that, Wendy?
Reimbursements.
Right before committee report.
21-270.
Okay, so the minutes will be,
Amended to reflect that Councilman Dr. O'Connor recused herself from the vote on.
I know you caught that, Julie, and, but I think I.
Definitely. I was, really eager to bring it up too.
270, right?
Yeah, just beat me to it, just.
Okay.
You got the A tonight, Mr. Councilman Grossman.
Yeah, that's a fine tooth comb right there. That was very impressive.
Wow.
That's it, I'm done.
All right, he's out.
Okay, that's to be approved. As amended. 270. Okay. Now, for the good of the order, anyone?
Just a
Go ahead,
quick
Julie.
thing. So this is actually regarding that tree ordinance. So for Wendy, I was hoping that maybe we could have those tree ordinance revisions for August 9th meeting. If you're able to do that, if you remember the last time when we had the pretty substantive discussion, and Councilman Menon and I had worked a lot with Mike revising some stuff, and I think there was going to be some things that you were going to add, but if we could maybe have...
Councilman Menon wanted to continue to work as a group first before anything was transferred over to me, so being closer to final form.
No, right? Go ahead. So you talk for yourself. Oh. Okay, no, but I think we're comfortable with, if you take the feedback that you had. Again, let me know if you need...
I was under the impression that the only thing I was supposed to look at now was to be ready to give fees suggestions, and that was it, and that you all were still working on other matters that had been discussed during the council meeting.
So I believe that what we were able to do last time, the discussion, in combination with the mitigation pieces, like the one-for-one, for example, the areas we were strengthening it, in addition to your fees, if you could take the tree ordinance, make those changes, and then, between the two of, our piece and your piece, and then if you could have that for August 9th, then we could say up or down that we're adjusting that tree ordinance.
We'll circulate between the three of us, in between this meeting and the next meeting in order to put together exactly what it is you're looking for. But I have some recollections of other items that were discussed to be amended, but we can work on that together.
Okay, so I'll forward the thing we wrote on, because it might have, and then that would be fine. All right, thanks. My other quick, for the good of the order, was to Mike, if we could get a recycle can, if you could tell the gentleman some recycle cans at the concerts, because we were there handing out some water bottles, and if it would be helpful if we could have some a recycle can or two there for the concert. Thank you.
I have one for the good.
Yes, go ahead.
And I'm not sure if it goes in for the order or committee reports, but it's a neat one, so I'm going to do it now. The Nature Center would like us to consider allowing, and Adam had a lot of work on this, a zip line and tree adventure course on the property. And they would like to know if they could work with our council and Wendy to explore this concept.
If it's allowed by Green Acres.
What do you mean work with the council to explore the concept? Do they have a concept plan already?
They have a vendor, and so, they would need Wendy to review the contract, the agreement, all the terms. So I'm asking permission from the council.
I would review what's allowed there first on the area.
Right. Well, that too.
I would review what's allowed in that area because it's all Green Acres money.
Again, it's under the open space, no, not open space, the
Green Acres.
The Green Acres.
Do they even need to come to us and discuss this?
Well, we need to give them permission to utilize the trees in that way, although this company doesn't.
Before all that, see what the land is allowed. What if you're even allowed to tap into trees and build stuff on trees or whatever?
Well, it's actually, it built it around, it actually doesn't
Right,
work
but
under the trees.
building in general, if you're even allowed to.
Wait, can we start with the simple way first? Wendy, can you find out if they even need our permission, council's permission?
Well, so
Not that I'm trying to avoid it, let's just be clear on.
they would likely need council permission in order to authorize the attorney to work on it, because according to my contract, I'm only authorized to move forward on what I'm directed by the administrator and council and the mayor.
Right.
So that's what I'm asking.
But to start with, they should first identify if they can, before we go anywhere, where on the property and whether there's parts of the nature center that are encumbered by green acres, there's parts that are encumbered by open space, and there's, I believe, even potentially a third funding source, and they don't all overlap the entirety. So depending where they are, there might be different regulations, and they may need to consider moving if certain regulations allow it in certain areas.
So the nature center's meeting on Wednesday, so I'll get back to you on Wednesday.
Also, I would be interested in knowing, are they looking to the borough for any potential liability issues?
That's it, thank you. Yeah.
So the way the company, so I read through some of the paperwork, the way the company operates is that they actually absorb, they claim 100% of liability, but again, I want our borough attorney to take a look at that before.
So, I'm sorry, let me just ask, if you can also ask them, is the company going to be running it and operating and charging fees on their own?
High school used to have a course.
Like, will they be a vendor to the nature center?
So I believe the company operates it. I believe there's some sort of fee sharing provision. And again, Adam, if you know any of this, please feel free to jump in. I haven't looked at the details, but.
So you know Deborah Davidson, why don't you just reach out to her directly, that's the chase with it all, find
Everyone
out.
a favor? Sure.
Okay.
That's exactly what we need.
That's
Yeah, I
No
know.
problem.
to get it done. Okay?
And Aaron, thank you for that one. It's a great idea, let's hope it works out.
Anything else for the good of the order? No, okay. Let's go on to old business, cannabis and drug-free zone, downtown zoning analysis.
So I asked, I would like this reso to be put on next meeting so it can just go up and down on a vote. That's it. We discussed it last week. It's the $1,500 study of the downtown. Just would like the study, that's it.
So you want to put that on the next meeting for a vote?
Correcto.
I like that. I agree.
Got that? Okay. We're going to have a motion to adjourn to the regular public meeting, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, does anyone want to take a break, or we just going to keep going right through?
For 2
Fine.
minutes?
Go ahead, take 2 minutes.
Wendy.
Because she's so good.
You were in town when the high school still had
20 years ago?
I don't want to get back to the.
No, she's eating.
She's what?
Eating dinner.
She's having dinner?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And she didn't bring enough for everyone. I'm starving.
Annie, are we live?
I'm gonna be on a sugar high.
We'll get started slowly. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Chrysler?
Here.
Councilmember Canal?
Here.
Councilmember Michaels?
Here.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Here.
Councilmember Park?
Here.
How about me?
Me.
Here.
Were you unsure if you were here?
Gets a little, All right. Could I have, do we do the minutes or a voice vote or a roll call?
Voice.
Voice vote. So I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 29, 2021 as amended. We're going to vote on R-270 separately.
No.
Right?
Two different things.
Aren't we?
That's for
No.
resolution, this is just the minutes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the minutes. That's what it is in there, 270.
It
It was
is
just amended.
270, so if the minutes were amended to reflect that Councilman Dr. O'Connor abstained from voting on.
Okay, so it already reflects that. Okay,
So
so can I have a
moved.
motion to approve as amended?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Revisions to the agenda?
There is one matter, council would like to pull resolution R21-279 and hold it till August.
Okay, very good. All right, public comments, audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Would anyone like to speak? Come up to the microphone, please. And if you could be so kind as to just state your name and your address, please.
I think I am in public tonight. Hi, good to see everyone in person. You look better here than you do on TV. My name is Natalie Kavanaugh, Kavanagh, owner of record of 83 Hazelton Terrace and 127 Grove Street, A and B. So I'm here tonight because I looked at the agenda and I saw the word bamboo. I just want to give you a little information to maybe make it easier for you checking all of the other ordinances that other towns have. I certainly would like to curb the enthusiasm of some of my neighbors who have plantings that are in quite abundance. When I looked at Tenafly shade tree ordinances and master plan, there is no mention of controlling this particular invasive species, or at a minimum, controlling it on properties within 10 feet of borders, so not to spill over to neighbors, yards, or public spaces. In Mawa, they have imposed daily fines of up to $1,000 for any plantings of running bamboo or spread of existing bamboo to within 10 feet of any road or neighboring property. The Mawa ordinance was modeled off of other Garden State municipalities currently known to have or be considering bamboo restrictions, which include Brick Township, Emerson, Lacey Township, Palisades Park, Raritan Borough, and Toms River. Give you some reference and we can look to other municipalities. The other reason that I saw on the agenda for my coming tonight was the open spaces, and it certainly was talked quite a bit, and there's not too much I want to add to this, except before you make your list for your field of dreams, I want to let you know, as a owner of property on Grove Street since 1983, it is all wetlands. I mean, we're not going to be able to build anything really big down there, I'm sure. Plus, there are environmental issues. And if anybody was here during Hurricane Floyd, not just Grove Street, but also Columbus Drive and many other streets, had water spilling out from everyone's basements. So, I will be coming to more meetings because this way I'll know how many more sump pumps I'll have to put into my property, especially with the amount of rain that we're having lately, and this will only continue. And unfortunately, not just for New Jersey, but other towns as well, other states as well. I personally think it would be great to have a pitch and putt as a golf enthusiast, but I'm not so sure if that will be on any of your list.
That's a good idea.
I like it. Go ahead.
Listen, you can make it flat and green. I also saw, and I had written a note to Mayor just today, that I thought open spaces might include the dog park. So, Councilperson Clark and also Councilperson O'Connor, I wanted to bring to your attention, I'm very concerned about the park. Not that just it looks horrible. Of course, for many years, anytime the public doesn't want something in their neighborhood, it gets thrown at the end of Grove Street. And that's what happened with the dog park. When it's out of sight, and nobody sees it on a regular basis, That goes for many other items that we've done over the years and talked about. It gets neglected. But what really concerns me is safety, number one. And I know that you've read my note to you today, and I know it'll be addressed. I thought it was, I'm one of the Tenafly nerds that does watch you on TV. I did notice that the Boy Scout who's doing his Eagle Scout project, Gabriel Gutierrez, was very enthusiastic. I think that's great. I have nothing against that. But there's no mention of cameras or locking gates, or even gates that are very similar to what we have going to the football field. I think they're called airlock gates, so no dogs can rush upon each other. I'm just interested in knowing from the health department how many dog bite incidents we've had there. I also think if we're going to do anything at that dog park, well, like you said, it's for the benefit of the public, but we don't even know why the public's not using it. I just babysat my daughter's dog this weekend, getting an opportunity to ask people who are walking with leashes, dogs at the other end, why aren't they using the dog park? Well, I think we need to hear from these people, and when you hear some of the answers that they gave me, it was pretty awful. It's, just dirty, dog waste, fear of dogs attacking, and people not paying attention. So what we had hoped would be a nice, friendly atmosphere has really taken a pool and turned it into a cesspool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Two short sets of comments.
We need Christine. 39 Leroy, come on, you don't need dress.
Chamber of Commerce President, 39 Leroy. We'd like to suggest, or I think we've had in our plans for a long time, to either use this grant money that you have to consider using it for internet traffic lights that would consult with Google traffic and adjust the traffic lights accordingly. This has been a project that's been considered for years and has thought to be too high a budget item. If that is still too high a budget item, to put hotspots for internet access in all of the parks, so that when internet is down, people can send their kids or do their own work in the parks, hardened in some way so that storms or other problems would be independent of the home internet system.
Those are interesting thoughts.
The other thing, Christine Evron, 39 Leroy Street, resident, on the cannabis legislation that you're considering passing, I am very concerned that you are disregarding the will of most of the residents in Tenafly who voted to legalize cannabis sales in New Jersey. I don't think they said with the caveat of not in my backyard. I would ask that you put a sunset provision where you have to reconsider this properly, because I know you were strapped for time on the ordinance. We're turning down a lot of potential tax revenue, and one of the businesses in town has raised the concern that if you pass the ordinance now against any kind of cannabis shop, and you subsequently repeal it, you don't meet the requirements of the New Jersey law that said you had to have an ordinance in place, and you therefore may be locked into this no cannabis for the next 5 years, and your alternative be a free-for-all of any kind of cannabis sales. Now, since this is a legal product, I really don't have a problem with that, but we might as a town. So I think you should recraft this to what you reasonably think that you want the cannabis legislation to be for this town, and pass an ordinance for that. Thank you. Or a sunset approximation. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Any other public comment?
Is there, I know Lindsay Till wanted to say something. There's no dial-in anymore, unfortunately.
There is no dialogue tonight,
So
no.
if I could just say something on their behalf, just Lindsay and Andrew Till, they're 124 Oxford. Just a huge thank you with this Tenafly Cares, the bikes. So over 50 bikes already have been collected, which is just incredible. Thank you to all the residents. We're actually going to have our first distribution a week from Monday. Sorry, a week from today, on the 26th. We'll get some information out. So really hoping we've been working with the Board of Ed. If anyone else knows, again, these bikes are pretty amazing. It's amazing what you got. If you guys know of anyone that needs bikes, we'll get the information out Monday night, the 26th.
Thank you.
So for the August 9th meeting, do we know if we'll get hybrid in place for the August 9th meeting?
I probably would say, probably not, in that time frame.
So I don't know what the council thinks, I love the fact that, first of all, I like eating together, so you guys aren't eating my cookies. But the thing I liked the most was that we had crazy awesome public participation. Unfortunately now, without it, we don't. I don't know what you guys think about, if you think it's coming, maybe we go back to
Virtual.
over Zoom for the night. I don't know what you guys think, I wish we had the same public that we had in the past. And thank you for Scott for making us at least having someone in the audience.
And Christine.
Christine's always involved. Christine's part of the council. Actually, I thought it was the last of the ring.
So can I just reiterate what I was saying, because I very adamantly said that I needed to be home tonight. I had to, do childcare.
Yeah.
That was other things.
Surprised
I
to see that.
adamantly said we weren't supposed to come back to this meeting until there's a hybrid in place, and I was incredibly disregarded. So I'm just putting that on record, that I am 100% for going back to the hybrid meeting or the Zoom WebEx meeting in August until we are adequately ready. And the fact that we, Natalie and Christine being here, but the fact that many people in the public who want to weigh in on the cannabis are unable to do so tonight, to me is a huge deal. And I actually think that we should postpone the introduction of this next ordinance until properly have.
You can't.
Fine, but I will say.
So let's say we are. The goal is not a massive conversation. My point is, I really like the public here. I thought we were going to be able to do the hybrid. I didn't realize this. And I know people now, just getting the public comments. So I trust Jimmy, whatever Jimmy decides. He's a borough administrator. Let's see where we're.
Okay. No other public comments? All right, consent, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? We're pulling R21-279.
So moved.
Have a second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dean? Yes.
What are we on
Councilmember Grossman?
consent?
Yes.
Councilmember Khan?
Yes.
Councilmember Michael?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go with committee reports. Dan, we'll start with you over there on the right.
No, nothing to report.
No reports. Councilman Grossman.
Yes, so I alluded to this earlier. We are doing the concerts tomorrow night, by the way. This is where I wish we did have the hybrid meeting so more people are here. Tomorrow night's concert is amazing. We are bringing in performer, bass player, Divinity Rocks with a band. She was the bass player for Beyonce for half a decade, plus the assistant music director for her. 2 records and a tour. She has played with countless other incredible musicians, including one I really like, Erykah Badu. And she's going to be here tomorrow night in Tenafly. She's Grammy nominated. No, she didn't win, but she certainly should when you listen to her music. She also played with Mel Blanc on his name, but it was something. A different musician who was with Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, so bass player for them. So played with him for several years. So I really want people to come out and enjoy this. We're putting on super quality concerts. We have a whole series coming up of great concerts. We're working on booking the Bruce Springsteen tribute band because they got rained out. We're working on coming up with a date with them. They're getting booked, that's the problem. But on this, and I did allude to this before, we are way short of contribution sponsorships. And in the past, we've had $15,000 to $20,000 coming in. I know this last year was hard on certain businesses. It was also phenomenal for other businesses. And those businesses really would be nice if they, contributed even $1,000 here or there would make a difference. Right now, we have, as I said, we used to get 15 to 20,000. Right now, we have $5,050 received.
So we need another 10,000.
We need another 10,000. I have 4,000 promised that we're awaiting.
So we need commitment for 6 more.
We need a commitment for 6 more checks, which we keep hearing about all these things that Tenafly people want to contribute to, and we're going to not have to spend tax money. And I can't even get $15,000 for a concert series that's gone for years and years, providing quality music because people just, for whatever reason, have really cut way back. Getting from them, well, I give it to other things, and so we're hurt. I just, if we can get the word out. The other thing I do want to mention is the planning board. The planning board met, and they have a subcommittee that deals with land use regulation. They decided, and this is really for Dr. O'Connor, and she and I discussed it, that they did not want to alter fences in any way to address the deer situation. And they were unanimous that 8 feet high fences they felt are fine. They don't want to play with the top to take away anything that deer can get impaled on. And so that was their decision. And that was the main part of the meeting. Plus sending off with a big tearful goodbye to Valerie, who had been their secretary for years and years. That's planning board. No other business was discussed. Stigma-free, this is my last one that I'll talk about. Stigma-free has an event coming up next month that everybody should really put on the calendar. It's a community-wide event featuring a professional speaker, Lauren Brill, who has a project or website, a thing called The Unsealed. You can check her out. So she's going to be talking at Hyler Park on Wednesday, August 11th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And it's just she's a motivational speaker on the issue of mental illness and mental health and trying to get conversations going on society's perception of mental illness in a community, normalizing emotional challenges. That emotional challenges are not things to be singled out, but are part of what's normal in society, and providing mental health resources for those suffering. She is a highly motivated, highly passionate speaker on this topic, and she is going to be coming to Tenafly again Wednesday, August 11th, 7 to 8:30 at Hyler Park, sponsored by Tenafly Stigma Free Committee. And encourage everybody to come, just like we had everybody come 1 week ago to this room to hear a wonderful speaker on the Holocaust. I will invite others to, that's not really a committee report, so.
Okay, thank you.
Is that appropriate for younger people to go to?
Yeah, it actually is. Down to about middle school age, I'd say 5th grade and up.
Okay.
Okay. The senior services met, and I can't say thank you enough to our incredible workers. Michelle Houch, and happy belated birthday, because I couldn't unfortunately attend her very well-attended,
Oh, yeah.
200-person birthday party in Oresco Park. And Arlene, of course, between the two of them, they're taking care of our seniors and our senior services so beautifully. Arlene was able to attend the meeting, and we are looking to generate a list of seniors in town, and we're going to work with Jimmy Humphrey and our borough and the mayor to generate an updated list on all seniors, mostly to use if they need us, not the other way around. We're still working to become an age-friendly designated town, and so that process is underway. Our bus, that right now is our senior bus, was the focus of the discussion. Two things. One, the current bus is still underutilized, especially post-pandemic. Our seniors are still a little concerned, obviously we're only putting 1 or 2 riders at a time. And so, that has become very interesting, and like I said earlier, many of the trips have been to Cludex. Not all of them, but many of them still are. And so we have applied for New Jersey Transit grant for a senior van, which is a 6-person smaller van that is accessible for wheelchairs and walkers. And Jimmy Humphrey is going to follow up on that grant. It was applied for in 2019. And it was supposed to be ready by the end of 2021 for 2022. And so we're going to follow up on that.
Is that the 5310 grant?
I don't know the number, but maybe. And so there was a good demand for that smaller type vehicle. It's more manageable, according to John Sullivan. He can drive the van, he doesn't need a special license, so it is easier if we need a backup driver for senior vans. So that's something that we're going to push for and maybe sort of start to phase out the larger bus that currently isn't being utilized and is very gas guzzler, not environmentally as friendly as a smaller van. We talked about the food insecurity. Harleen gave us a list of those families that she's working with that need services. But what she needs is to basically promulgate that she's here in the borough. So if anyone out there is listening to our council meetings, we have an incredible social services worker, Perween, who's here for families and seniors that are homebound, that are isolated, that are more alone. She does care management. She has an incredible list of resources, so I'm just giving her a little bit of a plug here. She does therapy and counseling for seniors. So if anyone's out there and they're listening to this, please feel free to reach out to her. She is taking in-person meetings now here at the borough, and thank you, Jimmy, for setting that up. And so that is, I'm sorry, and the last thing, and Mr. Kessie, this one's for you. There still needs to be a discussion, and maybe our DPW meeting can discuss this, about recycling garbage for those that are differently abled. Because what we used to do is have some sort of accommodation for those in wheelchairs or walkers and so forth, and now we've sort of phased that out with a new system, and so we need to find a solution. And that was brought up in the meeting as well. In our fire, we have a new employee, and that's exciting. And so we now have somebody who has replaced the old fire admin, and welcome, so thank you. And the fire will meet in the next few weeks, I believe. We're going to set up a meeting. Natalie Kavanagh's here, and again, I have to thank her. She's the chair of our Pride committee. And we're going to start to do more outreach. So if anyone has any ideas that they want to share with Pride, Natalie is our person. Thank you. And the Tenafly Welcome Committee actually would like to pair with the concerts, the summer concerts. They're not having a meeting this month, but they've asked if they're allowed to get out new welcome resident bands during the concert times, or set up a table, which I thought was a nice pairing. So Jeff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If it's town-wide and it's for helping town, it's public space.
Yeah.
So I will put you in touch then with Roxanne Surrey, the chair of that committee, and that's everything.
Thank you.
There you go. It came in.
Councilman Bennett.
Yeah, Mike, so there was zoning board meeting last week. 4 applications were duly heard, but one of them, the 141 Fairmont application, was started to the next meeting. as was another application because of late notice. Of the two remaining applications following the trend of the last few meetings, these were both pools. And in one, the applicant suggests that this is the only place on the property that a pool can go. The property is uniquely shaped. Some people may know the property is on an angle with, on the corner with Ravine Road, and angled down from angle and sloping downward. And so members of the board agreed and unanimously voted to approve. The second application for the night was heard, but because of low board attendance at the meeting, to vote on a C1 and C2 variance, the application is carried to the next meeting to allow the acting board members to listen to the proceedings for purposes of the board. So that was it, but I echo Councilman Gaten's birthday greetings to Michelle Rausch, Senior Center. I was unable to make it as well because of other commitments, but I heard it was a great party.
I think, look, Jimmy, what, probably 200 people there?
Easily, and they all complimented Michelle highly.
Yeah, they all love Michelle.
She does an amazing job.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Is that it, Vinod?
Yeah.
Councilman Michaels?
Nothing too much, just an update on the downtown revitalization. We have our next meeting week from Monday on the 2nd. They're organizing some of the public sessions. The idea from the steerco was to wait until everyone gets back in September. So we'll do that very early in September. We spoke with the school board. We're actually going to do a student run one when they start back in September as well. And I'll follow up on the photo contest with Councilwoman Dayton. But it's been going really well. Thank you to Jimmy and Omar on the team. They've been getting, I spoke to Noah from BFJ, and they've been getting all the materials they need. We're going to put it all up on the website. We already have a spot, so the public will have all the information that the BFJ team has as well. So that'll be a big thing. So, yeah, it's really wonderful. So thank you again.
Is that it?
That's it.
Councilwoman?
Okay, so just the two committees, the Environmental Commission, they now have prepared materials to go into these welcome packets for new residents that encourage, people who move into town to do pollinator gardening, organic gardening, not using pesticides, some good information in there. And these materials are also visible on our web page for the Environmental Commission that's on the new website. So we're looking to, have this good information spread more largely in the community. For the Board of Health, you all tonight had approved through resolution a youth liaison. So this is a new idea. We were approached by a person who's going to be a senior in high school next year, and we're pretty excited about it because it'll allow her to communicate health ideas through, to her peers. Obviously, there's all sorts of things that impact younger people, more prevalently than older people. So this could be a start of something interesting and new. And last, we also now have information on tick prevention and just knowledge about ticks that the Board of Health has put onto the main page of our website. These are state resources, and I just want everyone to know that this year and next year have been predicted for a while now to be very bad tick years, and the reason for that is the heavy rains that Ms. Kavanaugh is talking about, an abundant acorn crop, and the global warming. And that is what is affecting, and this has been predicted for a while, and it's going to be the next 2 cycles to have a lot of ticks, so we've got to know about it and be aware of it. So look on the website for how to avoid those things.
Julie, so I don't know if anyone's seen, but I know on my street, we have a whole family of wild turkeys, and they just had 10 babies, so 10 baby turkeys. But, turkeys are actually incredible at eating ticks. They eat thousands of them. So if anyone sees a turkey in their backyard, let it be there for a little while. They'll eat your bugs and ticks, and they're an incredible natural resource that we have from the nature center.
Thanks so much, Councilwoman Dayton, and as well as possums. So, yeah, excellent point. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay, thank you. All right, committee reports are done. Going to old business. Does anyone have old business I'd like to talk about? I have one item. No, I was just going to bring up the topic of the skate park. We have talked about, this in the past a little bit. Getting some questions from Jamie and the rec board about what the council, obviously we're not voting on anything tonight, but what the council would like to do over there. Do we want to put this back on the agenda? Do we want to take that skate park down as it continues to deteriorate, et cetera, et cetera? Anyone have any thoughts? Lauren?
So, I know we have unsuccessfully tried to renovate that to a new skate park. So my suggestion is to task the rec board to say, not do you want a skate park, but if the skate park comes down, what do you recommend? Because really, that might be the next step, is to get their suggestions. I know what I personally would like, and put a basketball courts, maybe golfing, batting cage. I mean, there's options there. But again, I think it should be maybe coming from our board. I mean, Adam really is on those kind of discussion.
Dan had his hand up.
So I would suggest that gets put on the bigger discussion about the swim club as well, because if the skate park wins a vote at the swim club, it could be a moot point. We can remove it and make it natural or passive area. It's part of that discussion. Both parks are.
Well, it could be part of the only reason I would kind of think about that is because the skate park is deteriorating at a rapid rate, much faster than anything will be resolved over on Grove Street. It's just, right?
So the temporary answer would be to keep it closed.
Something to think about.
It's
Any other
liability.
comments?
Dan, I couldn't hear you quite well for some of the part when you said about include it with the pool discussion, and what did you say, like, specifically?
So if let's say the skate park happens to end up at the swim club, however this discussion turns out, it's that area in Roosevelt can be something else, passive,
Okay.
whatever it is.
Okay.
It's part of the bigger discussion.
All right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to have a conversation with Jamie, okay, and to see how we come to a decision over that one way or the other.
The other thing I would recommend is, the planning board just did the entire open space, report, and they talked about, priorities for a green space. I mean, I'd like to take a look at that as well.
That's still a draft form, though, and I'm going to speak up for Jeff here. He's going to say, everybody get your feedback in, right? In time for September 1st, we all got the email. Right?
It's held the whole thing out.
What is?
It's held our lack of feedback.
From anything on the open space plan. People said they wanted to give feedback. They've gotten very little.
People said what, Jeff?
Positive.
That there was supposed to be, we've had members of this body ask to have the opportunity to give feedback.
So why don't we close it?
They've been
Because
waiting.
Plenty of time, Valerie sent
That's
out,
Yeah.
literally a month ago.
That's
She
my
said
overall
till,
question.
she said till September 1st.
Yeah.
That's what we have.
So who do we email now if we want to get feedback?
For feedback, she said to send, she gave a certain person who's taking over for her.
Yeah, send it to Amanda.
All right, Jimmy and I are going to have a conversation with Jamie tomorrow, okay?
About the
Yeah.
ramps, the skate ramps.
Positive I did that.
Okay.
I think, can I say one more? I actually would also like to go to the downtown committee and see what they want to see in that space. I'm just curious to see what we have all these boards and committees, I'd let them each make recommendations. That's the center of our town.
Maybe I didn't
Well, I can also tell you the HPC is waiting.
Absolutely.
They've already withdrew the
Good, well, then that should be part of our
They
discussion.
didn't want it.
Exactly. See, the bigger discussion. It's just leaking into it.
Okay. All right. All right, next
Because something
item is the
branches off.
introduction of this, of the
And that's why I think it's
cannabis operations ordinance. The council members have questions they want to discuss with our attorney before we introduce this. Questions?
So there's actually a bit of an ambiguity in the legislation. The legislation clearly says that if you fail to act, you will be allowing it for 5 years. However, it does not clearly say that if you act, you can't change your mind within 5 years. So if you do nothing, you are stuck for the 5-year term, but you can always amend what you've passed, at least until some court says that it's being interpreted incorrectly. But that is the interpretation that is most prevalent at the moment.
Is that if this gets approved tonight, well, obviously we're going to have a second reading, and then if the council decides in 12 months we're going to start selling it here or whatever, because we've got things in place, they can do that. Is that what you're saying?
That is my interpretation of the statute as it's currently written.
So-
Exactly the wording.
Very good.
Can I ask a different way? If this fails tonight, what happens?
If you fail to introduce this ordinance tonight, you do have to have something adopted prior to August 22nd, so that would be by August 21st. You only have one regularly scheduled meeting right now on your calendar for August 9th. So if you wanted to take some action, and this is not introduced this evening, you would need to call a special meeting for either the introduction or for a second reading public hearing of a different ordinance.
Like, for example, to allow.
Any different, even if it was to not allow it to change
Certain.
the wording of the ordinance, if anything different were to be introduced than what is proposed for this evening, you need to add a second meeting to adopt in the time, otherwise you'll run out of time and you will be opted in under the state.
However we got here,
Yes.
there's only one decision, which is we can't allow it right now because we haven't put in place any of the stuff we should have if we wanted to move forward from an ordinance perspective where we have it. Right now, if you say yes, or sorry, you don't do anything, it can be done, it can be placed anywhere because we don't
It's a
have
Wild
any
West
rules.
for 5 years.
So, regardless of where you want to be, and again, I sat on the same committee with Julie and Jeff. We had a bunch of meetings very early in the process. I honestly don't know what happened that night. I think we just waited too long to get other people's feedback. At the end of the day, we just have to approve this rejection, and then go forward. And then we should vote separately as a team on if we're sort of serious about never doing this or actually investigating it. But that's a second vote to what we have to do today. I mean, there's just no other option.
Correct. Unfortunately.
Right, and if you wanted to allow it, you have to keep in mind that if you didn't have the time to study it and you do it sort of just wherever, once an applicant has a storefront, you can't, they'll be
Take it
right
away
back in.
from- right.
Get
And this
unzoned.
gets to Dan's point on, at the next, we can decide whether to
Parallel.
actually investigate it seriously.
We're essentially buying time.
But I do, again, I want to defend the work of the committee. We worked quite a long time on it, and the reason for that was to see where the community was at. And out of that work on the committee was also the work to elicit public comment. So in getting that information, we in fact got information. So I just want to make sure that it's on record. We weren't, you know.
On the same committee that you are. I said, we did the work. Again, we got people to respond, we got 50 people to respond.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we need to investigate. This conversation has nothing to do with that. We just have to make
This
sure
is-
that people just can't randomly do whatever they want.
Yep.
Okay, Jeff, would you like to make the motion?
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 21-13 and set the hearing for August 9th, 2021 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter.
Do I have a second? please?
Second,
Who seconded?
me.
Okay. Annie, could you please read the title of the ordinance and then conduct a roll call, please?
Ordinance number 21-13, an ordinance by the Borough of Tenafly in Bergen County, New Jersey, prohibiting the operation of any cannabis business within its geographical boundaries and amending chapter 35 land development regulations of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly. Councilmember Bacon?
So this ordinance, just so everyone in the public is clear, is a formality because we have an August 21st deadline. This does not reflect my personal vote on whether I would allow cannabis to go forward. I am going to vote yes because currently we're out of time to investigate.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanan?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes, my Councilmember Davis.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
And just to reiterate, this is for intro, not the actual vote, yes.
Okay.
And just to reaffirm, Council and Parks' proposal will be on next month's agenda to investigate.
Correct. Okay, under mayor's remarks, sorry, what?
On the sign.
Oh, your sign, okay. I'm only gonna make, in the interest of time, I'm gonna put away my 12-page speech, and I'm gonna say that I'm appointing Max Bausch to the Senior Services Committee.
Oh, and the treasurer, the secretary as well, Miriam.
Miriam,
No, he is the new chairperson and Miriam.
I'm not appointing the positions, I'm only
okay.
appointing Max, she's already on the committee. Right, so I don't appoint the positions, only the individuals to the committee. And they choose their own leadership roles. Okay? So I need a motion to, well, you read the letter first, right? Can you read the, Wendy, can you read the closed session language?
Yes, Mayor. It's a resolution, I'm sorry, be resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4- I can't read the name, sorry. Well, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly are going to close executive session to discuss the following matters. The attorney privilege, the updating on potential litigation, as well as code updates, and a personnel issue for the Borough administrator's evaluation.
Okay, could I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
So
Have a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.